Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of the CantinaMX podcast. In fact, it is edition number 137 here at the Cantina Podcast channel live on YouTube. We're live normally Thursday night. We're back to our Thursday schedule at our usual 9:30-ish Central Time that we start on. And of course, you can listen to this and our previous editions of the podcast. You can download from the podcast center at iTunes, and of course you can listen to it also on YouTube as well. You can certainly stream the podcast from there as well. My name is John Jagu. Very happy to have you guys with us this evening. Very happy to have everybody from wherever it is that you're listening to us from all over the world. Thanks for coming on, and we do appreciate that. We'll be active on the chat locally on the YouTube page, and of course you can always hit us up on the Twitter. We are at CantinaMX _pod, and you can also talk to us on our Facebook page as well. A big show to get to tonight. I have a lot of things to cover. Very unfortunate news down in Mexico, which we'll jump into right away, and then we'll talk a little Estufa with the signings that Cruz Azul is doing in particular, and of course, so we're going to wrap up our group coverage with Group H, and Juan Arango is going to join us. Juan is a journalist based in Miami who is getting ready to do some commentator work for the World Cup. So we'll ask him about that. And of course, we'll ask about Group H, a group that's pretty wide open, although there's probably the two teams that are in Poland, Colombia, and then Senegal and Japan that will probably end up taking the group. But there could be some surprises here. You never know. And then, of course, we'll wrap it up and talk about the final that just happened in Mexico. And then we might even talk a little bit about the final that's coming up on Saturday between Real Madrid and Liverpool. So pull up a chair, crack open a cold one, and please, we do thank you very much for joining us here on the CantinaMX podcast. And let's go ahead and get started. But we can't start without introducing our panelists. And right now we have with us just one panelist, but frankly, if you ask me, I would say that he is the third strongest panelist we have on the show. And that is Joel Aceves joins us from Orange County, California. Joel, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very good, John. There's lots of news coming up this week.
There is. And, the biggest news, Joel.
Glad to be talking about it.
Well, we're glad that you're on talking about it with us tonight here on the CantinaMX podcast. The big news to me, Joel, is the news that Nestor Araujo, unfortunately, who was injured, he injured his meniscus at in the friendly with Croatia at the AT&T Stadium in Arlington on a field that was freshly sodded, so not the playing surface wasn't permanently natural. And in my opinion, over the past couple of years, the defender who has played has had the strongest performances for Mexico, playing in the Mexican national team shirt, and just having a terrific season with Santos before the injury, is out. He's not going to go, and I think it was almost as much his decision as everybody else. I mean, he before he went down to the Centro de Alto Rendimiento, he was like, I don't know if I'm fully recovered enough to play in a World Cup. And it's, my hat off to him. I mean, that's, he's like Gary Sinise in Apollo 13, where he's thinking he's getting ready to go to the moon, and then, something comes up and he can't go. So, Joel, how big a deal is this for Mexico? Is this a massive deal, or is this someone that can be replaceable? And then how is the replacement going to happen?
I don't know, John. I mean, I think I regard him as the best Mexican defender in Liga MX. It's gotta hurt to lose a player of that caliber, and I think it will hurt. I just don't know how much.
Well, the question here is: does he jumble, or does he just automatically put it, put in the second stringer? I personally believe.
No, he knows. I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah. Well, I think just the way he works, I think he has all of that already. The way Osorio operates, I think he already knows who would replace who and against and against which opponent as well.
Now, there are some Joel, some Osorio optimists, Joel, who would say that this is exactly
One of our
why
best defenders
he has been doing
is missing. It's
the rotaciones
a
is
bit of a
because of the fact
concern.
for situations like this when a player goes down and someone has to go in automatically, not automatically, but has to step in. The understudy, so to speak, has to step in, or you bring in somebody. The understudy may not be good enough. You bring in somebody who may not, be somebody you would have considered for that, but has played a position before, etc. So maybe you plug somebody in, and then you bring in someone, to replace that guy. And I personally believe, I think that that's what's going to happen here, because I don't think that even on their best days, either Diego Reyes or Hugo Ayala or even Osvaldo Alanis are better central defenders than Carlos Salcedo. So I would put him, keep him on the field, and then bring in, someone to play the right wing back position. And to me, the best one that has done it for Mexico is Edson Alvarez, because he's a great defender, and that position is a position that is very important to Mexico's attack as well. And he actually attacks pretty well. But the most important thing about him is that he defends. So I do think, Carlos Salcedo is a great defender, but his offensive touch is not of the caliber that you need, especially for a tournament like this. I mean, you need a guy that can make something happen offensively at certain positions, and that's one of them, in my opinion. Not every single time you go down the pitch, but someone that can, he can make some guys miss. He's good. He's a good dribbler, and he has a pretty decent shot, and he scores goals, and he defends really well. So to me, that is the fit like a glove change that Juan Carlos Osorio should embrace. I know he
This
listens to the
Monday,
show, Joel. So hopefully
yeah,
he's taking these notes down with the blue pen.
either the blue pen or the red one. Um, but this Monday he'll have a chance to tinker with the team against Wales at the Los Angeles Rose Bowl. I will be there with fellow panelist Cambiarrayas.
That's right.
Probably will
Juan,
carpool.
you're both. Have y'all hooked up? Have y'all made your plans as far as
No, not yet.
who has a further
Not
drive,
yet.
or Orange County or Long Beach to get to the Rose Bowl?
Me. No, it's me.
Yeah.
That would be me. But I'm gonna be in LA on Monday, so ikusupai. Yeah, hopefully I'll be meeting some of the other guys too from our friendly neighborhood podcast, the Mexican Soccer Show. Tom and Riso will be there,
Oh, good.
and Ivan. Hopefully
And
there'll be a
Cessa, the whole gang will be. John
reunion of
Arnold will be
sorts.
there. It is like a
Yeah.
reunion. Well, I'm glad that the Rose Bowl is one of my favorite places on earth. I've had a lot of good experiences at the Rose Bowl. So
I'm guessing pointy ball though, John, right?
well, indeed, but I mean, it's still it still counts. Well, just because it's not the beautiful games. I can't have good memories of the Rose Bowl. What I love about the Rose Bowl, Joel, is the location. It's just in this. Most stadiums are like in an industrial park, or kind of out in the middle of nowhere, or right next to a freeway where it's just there's just parking lot after parking. It's just there's nothing around. The Rose Bowl has this incredible neighborhood around it, and then a golf course as well. But I mean, the first time I went, we drove through this amazing neighborhood. You turn left, and there's the Rose Bowl. It's just so weird.
It is, yeah.
So it's a really fun place. I'm sure that it'll be a great atmosphere for Mexico's send off against Wales. So well, if you were pulling the strings, then Joel, what would you do?
Oh man, I mean, there's not much to choose from, so it's just either keep the team as it is because he did call in 28 players, or just whoever is doing really good at the moment,
Okay, so you're taking the wait and see approach and see how it. Now they do have 3 games to shake things out before they can, limit down to the 20th. I'm not sure where the dates work on that last date, the friendly they have with Denmark. I can't remember if the 23 cutoff is before or after that game. But I know that they have at least this one and the game with Mex in down at the Estadio Azteca against Scotland to see what they have as far as getting that ready to go between the what they're doing right now with their friendlies and their prep and that first game with Germany, which I mean, frankly, you need to have, it's the absolute best, your absolute best 11 in that game. I mean, you cannot have anybody other than your best 11. So he's going to have to figure out who his best 11 is going to be before that first game on Sunday,
I do
June
think
17th.
Just knowing the way he is, he seems very methodical, and I think he already has, an idea of who he's gonna line up. I wouldn't be surprised for every team, and then his alternatives and all that.
Right. With the strategy that he wants to play, he's probably got it all mapped out, and then if things, suspensions or whatever, don't work out.
He has a PowerPoint presentation, and he has
how many slides?
and everything.
How many slides do you think it has?
He's got like 200, probably. And then you gotta add some of those.
Now, do you think Osorio's the kind of guy that would put would it just do a straight dissolve from slide to slide, or is he one of those guys that puts those ridiculous
that's
transitions?
Right. Yeah, the transition ones, and somewhere they're like doing something funny.
Exactly, and put like sound effects, like for a whoosh when there's a page turn, and
because he, you know what, and we're joking about it, but this guy sent the national team players. I think he sent them like exercise manuals, or and then even what to eat, right?
Yeah, he's been sending them that. He's been sending them.
I wouldn't mind that
videos to watch. He's been very hands on. So the reality is he's had his 23 picked a long time ago.
He could do that. He could do that, like the Osorio stuff, and he'll send you like prepackaged meals plan. You know what I mean?
Right.
I would pay for that, at least a month subscription for the JCO workout.
So you'd get the videos of
DVD. Of exercises, like
the dietary tips. Right.
Yeah. A notepad with red and blue pens.
That's right. The notepad with red and blue pens.
Probably some stickers, but I would do that, John.
That's interesting, Joel. In addition to Nestor Araujo not being unavailable for this game, unavailable for the World Cup, Mexico will be traveling without El Capi to the Rose Bowl. Rafa Marquez, not only can he not play in this game, he has been playing as Tom pointed out last week with a sponsorless shirt on the pitch.
That's right.
He's photographed. He's not.
They don't want to. The sponsors do not want to be associated with some.
So a very interesting development with that, and I'm just I'm not so sure with Rafa. I don't know if he's. I don't think that he's. I just don't think that he's going to be playing that much, in my opinion. I think that he's going to be like a second. If by some miracle Mexico's winning 1-0 in the second half, and there's like a minuto said that I see Rafa's coming on and he's going to play. But other than that, I just don't see how he could start.
He will have his 5th World Cup. He's going right. Who is it? Lothar Matthäus.
Right.
And El Cinco Copas. I'm in my 2nd Copa, John. I'm forgetting Cinco Copa's name.
Toto Carvajal. And then there was somebody else that just recently
good stuff, John.
That just recently had made the 5 World Cups. It was a name that I didn't that I was really surprised. Like, wow, I didn't realize that person had 5 World Cups too. Yeah, so there's somebody else. We'll have to figure out who that is. But joining us is before we bring Juan on. Looks like Albert Chiquis Campa has joined us. Albert, how are you, sir?
What's up, everybody? Doing good.
So, Chiquis, I'll ask you with this whole Nestor Araujo thing. What would be your back line then, Chiquisa, with knowing that Nestor is out?
Oh, gee, you mentioned the four. What was it? Moreno, Alvarez on the right, and then Salcedo on the middle, and on the left, Layun. I think that's what you said, right?
Yeah, that's what I said that earlier in the week, where Layun's playing the left back, and then you have Moreno and Salcedo playing as the central defenders, and then you have Edson Alvarez playing over on the.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, I just have to think that Edson Alvarez brings more to the team than like a Nugo Ayala or Osvaldo Alanis playing, in my opinion. And if that's the case, then you got to make the move to accommodate him on the field.
I would say though, on the offense, like we were talking about as well, the center back getting into the offense. I think Nugo Ayala does do that a little bit better, and he does.
Yeah, but you don't want him to. You don't want him to do that. That's how Mexico got in trouble against Germany in the
that's true.
Fed Cup.
That's true as well.
That's the lesson. Now we have sent our invite to Juan Arango, who hopefully will be joining us here shortly, and we will be talking Group H in the World
Colombia.
Cup. It's Polonia, Senegal, Colombia, and Japan.
You know, I was just thinking right now, John.
Oh.
You know, thinking Colombia now.
Don't hurt yourself.
I know how JCO could win over the Mexico fans.
How's that?
It would just take him, win or lose, it would just take him one post-match conference. He needs to talk like the narcos from the series. And if he'll call the periodistas maricas, or, you know, he just that, like gangster talk.
Right.
He'll win everyone over. He just gotta go hard, you know, talk some smack, but use that slang.
You gotta watch the tape. He's gotta watch that. He's gotta watch the tape and analyze it, and then figure out his strategy to do to talk.
Wait, what are you talking about? Oh, to talk that?
Yeah.
It should come natural to him, but you know, John, he would be up there with Piojo for his celebrations.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like when Sven won his first match. It was at the Estadio Azteca, and he went up to the podium and said it was "Estaba muy poca madre." You know.
Well, Aguirre that's one of the things where the media, you know, even when he's doing bad, they don't go hard after him. Just the way he talks to the reporters, you know.
Well, I mean, he talks to them like, you know, they don't. I mean, that's the one thing that I always have a hard time with coaches is that they, and understandably so. I mean, they you know, most of them don't ever say anything, but they master not saying anything in about 30 to 40 seconds of just absolute, just, you know, earwash of just nothing, and they rarely get into. And Osorio to me the same way. He's very detailed, and in what he says, but it just there's nothing there. I mean, it's just a bunch of. I mean, I'm not saying that there's nothing there in what he's saying. I mean, he obviously knows what he's talking about, but it's never answering the question. And that's, you know, most coaches do that. They will, you know, go on and on and on about something, and then never ever answer a question like that. So. Joel, are you riding the bus home?
No, why? There should be no noise. Wait, what are you hearing?
I'm hearing some. I heard like a big buzz going across, like it was. Yeah.
I think it's my laptop that it's overheating. It's pretty hot in here. I think because Ron joined us, and he hadn't been here in a while.
Now, normally I would play. You know, Ron has his own theme song, but he's been so sad and dejected with his Cuba America right now, last couple of weeks that to play.
Oh man.
The sad music for Mr. Ron Luna, who joins us from Philadelphia. How are you, sir?
How are you doing, John? Actually, I'm not that sad.
Well, it was very pragmatic. You said and maintained your position throughout the entire season. This is a semifinal team. Not going to get any further than that.
Yeah,
People,
I knew it. So I was like, I knew it from I knew that they didn't have the team to win the championship.
and that's exactly what they didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Is win the championship. So
Yeah, but I also did say that if VAR was implemented, they'd reach the finals. You know, so. But yeah, no, like I said, I wasn't mad. I knew that they weren't going to win it. You know, from day one. I think, you know, they've been a consistent semifinalist for the last 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. So, with the exception of one season that they didn't make it, and I think that was with La Volpe, if I'm not mistaken.
it wouldn't surprise me. Well, I mean, a lot of that was because of
Yeah, the fallout with Johnny Luis and Peláez and them.
right. And well, not just that, but you know, the fact that Ricardo Peláez kind of helped get rid of some bad habits that America had, and you know, kind of built the foundation. And it's, you know, the fact that it's still paying dividends today is really a testament to what he was able to do.
Yeah, but I'd like to start seeing Baños and excuse me. Sorry, John. It's just I'm drinking that mineral water. No, I'd like to see Piojo and Baños building up another team. You know, that's what I'd like to see for this upcoming off season.
And how do you feel about them going after the Dutchman that they're just desperate to get?
Long Duck Dong or something like that.
The Young.
No, I'm sorry. That's the different. That's 16 Candles. Long Duck Dong.
One of my favorite movies.
No, yeah, no, yeah. You know what? You know, how long has Menez been in Mexico? He's been in there about 6?
It's about less than 6
so?
months.
Yeah,
Yes.
he just was there since February.
But wasn't he injured at first?
Yeah, he got injured, but then he just like during the playoffs, man, he was gassing out. So I mean, these guys are going from like literally, the lowlands, below sea level almost over there.
Yeah.
So I don't expect, if they do hire the Dutchman, I don't expect instant results, and I would give them time to adjust because, it's tough. It's tough to adjust.
Well, other than that, Ron, is would you agree with the trash talking Juanita when she tells you
Club America, they suck?
Certain players do. Certain players had no business being on that team.
Right.
Which to me, it's funny. Seeing what's his name, Osvaldito, win with Santos. For me, Aguilar and Osvaldito should have never left the team. And I think that's gonna. Well, I mean, obviously, Osvaldito won with Santos and the other, the Paraguayan Aguilar with with Cruz Azul.
Who else is at Cruz Azul, John?
right now?
Yeah.
You mean,
Another America guy.
Ricardo, you're talking about Ricardo Peláez?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rana.
he is starting to use the same blueprint that he used at America.
Hey, Rana, I'm seeing some of that Russell because I know America gave it to Cruz Azul for the past 10 years, always beating them and humiliating them.
Yeah.
But they have Peláez now.
Keep in mind.
And they're going back to the Azteca.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be surprised if some of the results start swinging their way.
Well, keep in mind. Yeah, well, remember, when they did it back in the day, in the 70s, Cruz Azul, basically went in there and, like, if you can imagine, that scene in Chappelle where, messes up their couch. I mean, that's what Cruz Azul did, man, to America. I mean, they took ownership on Azteca during the 70s.
It's like in their 30
F your
boots.
couch. Yeah, F your couch.
Oh man.
Now, we've made a lot of fun of Cruz Azul's misery over since we've been on this podcast. I don't have this many drops for any team. We have
Y la Cruz Azuleo.
we have that, and then of course we have the ladies. We have Lady Samantha. And we have Lady Máquina. And then we have.
I'm afraid I just blew myself.
So it has been miserable for Cruz Azul fans for the past 20 years, I guess, at this point. But but just lately, it's just been incredibly rough. I guess the other standard Ron, we played it for Ron, but we can play it for Cruz Azul too.
That's for Jason.
Yeah, for
Jason
Marquitos.
Yes.
So do you think the tide is finally turning then, Joel, for Cruz Azul?
I do, man. They got the right man for the job. Former Americanista, someone knows how to, fire with fire, man. And even though he's Americanista, I would have welcomed him at my goats.
With open arms, right?
Yes, we got the giraffe. I would trade for that. Without due respect, he seems like a good dude, but and you know what? This Pelaez, man, you can see how good he is at negotiating. The Mexican press has been gushing over him. Just the transfers that Cruz Azul has been getting compared to other years where Cruz Azul would bring in players 2-3 weeks into the season,
And it's not just that, but complete unknowns too.
Yeah, or injured like Roque Santa Cruz, who was supposed to be a good, he's a well-known player, and he just came in to. I don't know what he did. I don't know if he played like 3
Roque
games.
Santa Cruz after a while became broken Santa Cruz.
Broken.
The poor guy just was, like you said, he couldn't stay healthy, and it was like that for the last 4 or 5 years of his career.
One of the things that I kind of have to commend, Pelaez with, and you could really see this when he was with Picante. He didn't cave to the Americanistas, when they were on the show. Like Cuauhtemoc or Reynoso or even El Negro Santo. He was actually on the show, but Santos threw him a lot of dirt, and it's like he didn't care. He knew he had a job to do, and he was going to do it. And no, but if he takes that same attitude, with Cruz Azul, I think he'll do fine. I think he'll be okay.
Just the players that they signed, that young kid from Necaxa. They just signed somebody else today from Atlas. They've been picking up, again, solid Liga MX players, which is what Pelaez did when he started turning around Club Americans instead of, and as Ron put it, or even and both Ron and Joel, that just instead of going after those, Thank God for turning microphones off. Y'all didn't have to hear any of that.
Oh.
But he goes after players that he knows have already proven themselves in Liga MX, instead of getting some guy who might be a big name somewhere but could come in and just not jive at all with any of even just living in Mexico. And it obviously is it has paid off for him in America, and then I don't see any reason why it's not going to start paying off almost pretty quickly for Cruz Azul. Are they going to win any kind of title and win the next season? Either way, with the way Liga MX is, who knows? But there's no reason to think why it couldn't happen.
I think one of the things that's going to happen, right, from the onset, is that nobody trusts Billy Alvarez, especially the press, and it doesn't matter the coach that they bring. But I think with Pelaez, I think it gives them a little bit of credibility. At least for a year. I think the press is not going to be as tough with Cruz Azul. because they know how, what type of, person Belice is, and they know that he didn't turn things around, from one day to another with America, but he he laid a foundation, and I think that they're going to win a championship with Belice. And I wouldn't be surprised. Belice, it took him three seasons. I wouldn't be surprised if they do it in the second one.
But championship? Do you mean Copa MX?
No, they already did that.
I'm just messing with you. Yeah.
I mean, they've won Copa MX and they've won. Was it CONCACAF?
Yeah, they did. That was their last title, the CONCACAF, and it was Tena.
Yeah.
Tena kind of got it. But yeah, I could see them. Me and Johan, we had them as winning the title. Boy, were we wrong. They were our favorites. They I was expecting them to do what Santos did, to have that run, but it ended up being Santos. But
a quick update on Juan Arango. We're efforting. He's having his app seems to be crashing on us, so he's trying to join us. So I know he wants to.
On Chivas TV.
I don't know. I'm hoping Juan is using something a little stronger. I would assume he is. Hopefully he is. But he'll be on here. He'll be on here shortly. Hopefully. Otherwise, we'll have to get Chiquis to help him out.
Yeah, we got our technical director.
That's right.
Se me olvidó lo que iba a decir, John.
Sorry about that, Juan.
No, this was important news. Yeah, just forgot. This Chimay stuff you got me, John. It's wonderful, man.
No, it was news about Chivas. Was it about the fact that they have said that they've paid the players?
Chivas, it's sad. What's going on at Chivas is pretty sad, man. It's you think they're a mid-table, low-level team. They, no money, and they have to sell their assets and all that stuff. It's pretty bad.
But you said that this it's not like this is old news, like something.
No, it's not. It's not.
This happened before.
Well, I think it's been going on since maybe the 60s or 70s, where they just started milking it.
Right.
It was the goose with the golden eggs, but they just forgot to feed it.
And that was a big takeaway from the conversation we had with Tom Marshall last week here at the CantinaMX podcast about Liga MX, and that's a really good analogy. Analogy, Joel said that they're forgetting to feed it. And
yes.
It seems like the Liga MX owners are forgetting to feed Liga MX.
They are, man. But I think and then Tommy, he said that Santos is one of the best run teams. I think just the way they've been operated, how they've done their stadium and then youth development and everything, the amount of titles they win, like the time that goes between titles, it's also been impressive.
But it's not just that, though. I mean, he said it was, one of the things that he said is that, that team more than any other that he'd been around in Liga MX just has the pulse on what is happening in the sport, not just in Mexico, but around the world, just worldwide. They're totally tuned into what's happening in the world of soccer. And, it would be sad for me to keep talking Santos the way we are right now, if we don't introduce the man who enjoyed watching his Santos win the 6th title. Hopefully he'll be able to speak, because I know he's a little under the weather. Daniel Preciado joins us from Escondido. Daniel, how are you, sir?
Yeah, thanks for prefacing that. I'm getting a little bit better, but clearly still not 100%.
Yeah. Are you at least able to chug down some hot toddies?
No, not quite yet, man. Not quite yet. It's been rough. I wish I could drink some alcohol.
Yeah. What about some
right
honey?
Now it's just a little too painful.
Hot honey and a little bourbon, just like mixed in like a little shot glass. Are you able to do that?
I'll try it. I think it's worth a try.
I think so. Well, Daniel, Glad you're able to make it. I know that you are a little under the weather, so if you really need to step off, but we don't want to get what you got.
No. But yeah, man, I'm obviously extremely happy, proud of the team. But I saw signs of this in the Liguilla. Obviously, I think earlier in the season, my concerns were pretty clear. Losing Giannini and losing Nestor definitely derailed the momentum that they had throughout the season. So yeah, they ended on a really sour note on the regular season. But the last couple games, even though they didn't get really great results, it seemed a little bit unlucky. Meaning like they played well, they just didn't get the results. So I was feeling somewhat positive about the Liguilla. And but throughout the Liguilla, I thought it was just odd, and I thought it was clear that maybe people hadn't watched as much as Santos as I had, just because of the notion that they were clear underdogs, and all three of those series was just absurd. Line by line, if it's a healthy starting 11 for that Santos had, I don't see how anybody can claim that they're clearly better. If you go line by line, maybe there's not an extreme star power, but we had the top goal scorer, so he may not be a star, but he's knocking in goals more than anybody else. So, and then you throw in the experience in the midfield with Gallito and Osvaldito. You have the starting center back. And then you have a really good center back who's been the captain of the team in Izquierdos. It's not that hard to figure out. You have young fullbacks that are kind of deep. They got 2-3 deep in a fullback at Santos. There was Arteaga and Sanchez that were starting at different points throughout the season, even last season. And then this season, you have someone like Angulo, who's now like already being touted as being a potential for the national team now. So they have players and they have a decent amount of depth. So to me, it was just not. They clearly thought Sambu was something like that could be unmatched, I guess, which I just didn't see that being the case. And then how the team continually was able to come back, that also tells me about the mental makeup of the team, that they don't get down when they're down. They trust themselves. They trust each other that they could pull it back and then get back in the game, and they did that a couple times. So yeah, I felt the team was mentally strong. They really are. They've all buy into each other, and they have the talent. So the championship shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. And I guess I was a little bit bugged or perturbed of how they kept referring to them as underdogs, when maybe going into that first leg, that first one against Tigres, I could understand it because of how poorly they played. But when they showed those signs that they kind of righted the ship, at that point, I was a coin toss with against America, and it was a coin toss with Toluca.
I think I was expecting Toluca. They're known sort of for their defense. I don't think that's the case anymore, or at least in this team, and that I think sort of affected things. But I think in the first leg, when you talk about the mental,
Dueñas retires. I mean, he's a hard guy to replace.
Yeah, the mental aspect of Santos coming back is sort of true, but it seems like in most games when a team goes down 1-0, they immediately react and they try to pressure, and that's what Santos did real well. And I think Talavera screwed it up. Talavera made a huge mistake, and the things just shifted. So a lot of it.
And see, that's a good point that you make. You know, a lot of it is mistake driven, but that's how championships are decided. Who makes the least amount of mistakes? I mean, in football, I think there's a huge correlation with turnovers. Like whoever loses the turnover battle tends to lose the game. I think in these types of instances is where if your goal cup, if you get a cheap goal that you probably shouldn't have gotten, that's a mistake on their end. But you have to be good enough to take advantage of those chances.
Yeah, I can sort of accept mistakes like on the defense, like a bad pass or mistakes like that. But when a goalkeeper comes out way too early and on that far of a, I don't see what he was he was thinking on coming out on that ball. But
and that's supposed to be a strong suit.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it was definitely the play that turned the final. Now, Dan, are you worried about? Yeah, as you mentioned that Santos has a lot of talented players. How many of those are they going to be able to keep their hands on between now and July 20th when the season kicks
I'm not
off?
confident that the team is going to stay intact. No. But you know what? It shouldn't be. I, I'm kind of the opinion that you can't depend on that same group to win and win and win and win and win. So I'm okay with them moving forward and making changes because that it's the reality of the sport. My team's position and in the hierarchy of wages and money, they're going to have to sell players, and that's fine. Let them cash in on big on somebody, and then hopefully their scouting continues to pay off, and then they'll have someone that can replace them. It's just a reality. So I mean, I'm expecting to lose Giannini. I'm hoping Fuchs stays just because he's finally found his form with the team. So it'd be kind of a pity to see him leave. Giannini's been with the team for quite some time, so it wouldn't shock me to see him go. But other guys
did you do the full Furch when he scored the goal in Toluca?
I tried to in my limited voice at the time because I was actually a lot worse off over the weekend. So I just clapped really hard.
Also, so when Santos scores, you're like,
yeah, I was like, go, and I just clapped really hard. That kind of bothered me too. It depressed me a little. I'm like, I couldn't even scream it as much as I wanted to.
So right now you can't paint your boys. You can't paint your boy's face with the green and white stripes because he's got the same affliction you have right now too, doesn't he?
My little one is over it. I got it way worse than he did. He was symptomatic for 3 days. I've been symptomatic for a week, and it's been a really, 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 really long week.
Yeah.
I finally saw like I actually went to the emergency room. It was so bad.
Yikes.
But yeah, luckily it's just a pain that I have to deal with.
Imagine how crappy you would have felt if you would have watched Santos lose and have to go through that.
Oh yeah, no,
an absolutely awful.
The pain for sure, man. I'm ecstatic. The fact that they're quietly creeping up on everybody as time passes, it's nice to like now they kind of force themselves into those silly conversations of where their place is, and I mean I just know like what their place is. I don't know where their place is. I just know that in modern times, since on short seasons, there ain't too many teams that are better, if any. So, and that's good enough for me. We don't have to be a grande. We just being the most successful is plenty good.
Well, that's I mean, it's not something that can certainly be unvalidated because we've talked about Santos as one of the teams that has been consistently very decent for pretty much as long as they've been in the league. Now they're one of those clubs that were formed and they were like in the third division. They would say that, and then they had a chance to buy a team when they bought Angeles and they became Santos back in 19. I want to say that was 1988, but they won. But they ended up winning a title or awfully close to one, like in 92, 93, if I'm not mistaken. Santos did so.
Yeah, and I think their first actual one came in 96.
Right, it was like one of the first short season championships. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So, and ever since it's so they've won 6 short season championships. Santos.
I guess they average one every 5 years. I guess someone did the math. And it's every 5 years.
So the Santos Comet comes around about twice as often as the Chivas Comet. Is what that sounds like.
And over the last 3, they've been every 3 years. So they're trying to shorten that duration.
Wow. Wow, that is that no, that's seriously that's Santos to me is one of the teams. I mean, even beforehand. Now, Ron, am I mistaken, or was Santos at one point were they owned by the Cervecería Modelo?
They were financed by them. They weren't owned by them.
And I'm guessing that they still have some, maybe not an official relationship, but they probably still have some sort of, because I mean the stadium is the Territorio Santos Modelo.
Yeah. They were basically administered by them. It was basically it was a patronato, if you will. It was an ownership group, but then they decided to get out of it, and Carlos Almada, the RG Mexican wannabe politician, the guy he got caught for corruption and stuff like that. He had a little bit of the team for a while, but then he couldn't. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that the federation took the club away from him because of the immoral character. I think they had that clause, and for a while they were close to being relegated, and a couple people from the Modelo group and stuff like that, and even from the people associated with Televisa. Because if you look at the ownership group and some of the owners that they've had, you see names like Cañedo, you see names like White and stuff like that. So they've had close ties with Modelo, the Banamex, and from them.
Okay, and it's one of the reasons why they were able to get their stadium done, and the cat that runs them now is he I want to pronounce his name wrong. Is it Idi Dagorri?
Iñagorri? Yeah.
Was he a former principal in the Modelo group?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure his family, how far back his family goes into football. I'm not sure. I've never really done the research with him. All I know about him is that he wears a plastic construction.
He wears construction hats that you don't approve of.
Yeah, because they look like cowboy hats.
Oh, he wore the cowboy hard hat.
Those are valid reasons to hate someone.
I cannot take a guy serious like that.
If I were in another position, I probably wouldn't like him either.
It's like, what the hell? But anyhow,
if he had a French influence, would you have been okay, Ron, with the beret hard hat?
No, that would be worse.
That's where I differ. I think that would be even better.
Or what of those those English cab driver little caps, like those little ones that had little snap on the front, hard hat like
I'm
that.
all for expressing if you want to express yourself, man, you do it.
But and it's not like Joely said that I was a little salty, with Santos winning and stuff like that. Not that I'm salty because, back in the day with Santos, I mean they had players like Galindo, Borghetti, Ramirez. You had to question how they were able to afford those type of players. Like for example, like Necaxa back in their heyday in the 90s. Obviously, that they were financed by Televisa, but when you looked at the fan base and all that, it's like, dude, there's no way that they could afford.
Ron, have you seen the size of Caguamas and then how many Caguamas are sold?
They're pretty big.
There you go.
No, but
is it really worth the tinfoil hatting here? I mean,
no,
you can't tell me.
They've cleaned up their organization. Obviously, when you,
I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking like they could easily have afforded and had those guys. Santos. That's really interesting to me that how many ex-Santos players end up at America and end up having really decent careers.
Peralta.
They even prefer
Paul Aguilar.
Paul Aguilar was from Pachuca. He came from Pachuca.
I thought he came from Santos.
It was Pachuca.
Oh, I thought it was Santos for some reason.
No.
Some players, after experiencing both clubs, actually prefer Santos, surprisingly.
Yeah. Darwin, being one of them.
Yeah, well, Darwin went and lived out in Ciudad Satélite, and he had that, and then it takes like 3 hours to get to the Estadio Azteca. It's because Villacuapa, You know, who wants? I mean, honestly, who wants to live in Villacuapa?
Yeah.
So I can certainly understand. Darwin's actually having a really good season for his MLS team up in Minnesota. Minnesota United, the Loons. I want to say he's up to either 3 or 4 goals for them already for Darwin. Joel, have you had a chance to go catch the LAFC team at their new stadium?
Not yet, John. It's on the agenda.
Yeah.
I heard they're already sold out for the next Clásico del Tráfico, which they will be hosting at the Bank of California.
Why don't they play that at the Rose Bowl or at the Coliseum?
I think, you know what? I think. Actually, I haven't thought. But now that you bring it up, I do believe that will probably be a venue. If that rivalry eventually like becomes big, I could see them playing the games there.
Well, what they would do is that they'd have a home one, and then they'd have, you know, they each have their home and home, because I mean you can't give that away, take that away from the fans, that game.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
they always have, like, I think right now in MLS they play 3 a year. So on the third one you go play at the Rose Bowl.
Okay, John. Yes. Yeah, that would. I mean, right now I think they could easily put about 50K. You know, I think minimum. It's
Right.
not bad. I mean, Rose Bowl holds what, about 90 or 100?
92.
90? Yeah. So I mean, I do think they could maybe get around 60, and then if it ever becomes a big thing, sell it out, because they're bringing in the names. They got the players there, you know. And I've been telling you, John, after the World Cup, I think that we might see 1 or 2 more Mexican internationals in either of those 2 teams.
I would have to agree with you, Juan, because some of the players that are considered the golden generation, I think they're going to be on their way out of the national team, just for this upcoming cycle after 2018. And I think they're going to try to cash. I think they will try to cash in MLS.
Yeah, like Guardado, even Ochoa. I mean, I really thought Ochoa. What happened?
I think Ochoa he's a keeper, man. Those guys can go until
Yeah, but does he still want to be in Belgium? I mean, he's looking at his Mexi bros. He's seen Gio and Vela.
But he likes living there. He likes living
his
there.
nuts off in Belgium.
He's gonna play Champions League next year.
I think he wants to play with a big club, like the
not.
G14 type of club.
Oh yeah, no, he's not.
Well, either way, he's gonna play in the Champions League next year.
Yeah.
He's never played it, right?
No.
I could see him staying just for that.
Somehow Ajaccio never made it to the Champions League.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Or Bet. I mean, Nelson, but the other one, what was the other team? They had the Cameroonian guy.
That was Malaga.
Yeah, with a coincidentally their goalkeeper coach also happened to be Cameroonian.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see him staying for that just because he seems, as the type of person he is. But I mean,
now, do you think Ochoa starts in the World Cup?
Yeah, I think he's playing all 3 games.
He was named by either the fans or I think it was the fans in Liège as the player of the year for their team. And at Standard Liège this year. So he obviously had a season that was good enough.
But they finished second, John. They finished second.
They finished second, which means that they don't go to the Champions League directly, but they go to the last of the play-ins, the 3rd round of the playoff.
Or they play some La Liga team, and then
exactly they'll play.
Eliminated.
Well, I don't know about or they'll play like the Bulgarian team.
Okay, well then they'll have a chance.
Yeah. So exactly, yeah. But if they end up playing like Chelsea or whatever, then they'll probably be toast. Although I think that they would play a team that plays into it, so those teams would never play into it. So they should get a reasonably accessible match. A quick update on Juan. Apparently, Juan's app, the Hangouts app on his phone, keeps crashing every time he tries to get into the call.
Oh man!
I got a phone line if he wants to, or the same phone lines we have if he wants to call in.
Oof. I mean, I guess we could do it that way. It's just hard to hear.
Either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is hard to hear.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I prefer to hopefully Juan. And if it doesn't happen this week, then we'll have Juan on next week. So if we don't get Juan on, I mean, we still have a couple of weeks before the before the World Cup starts. Yeah, but it's Ochoa. But outside of Ochoa and Chicharito, I mean, is there and here in the news today? I don't know how true it is that the LA Galaxy are putting the Santos brothers on the lista de transferibles.
What?
At least for the summer window. I don't know if that's true or not.
Oh man, those Tragos brothers. They must be partying too much. I don't know. That seems weird, And they're both seleccionados. They're both going to be at the World Cup.
Yeah, MLS is getting savvy to what's going on, man. And I think Joel's optimism.
No, I think we would need to talk to someone that follows the Galaxy regularly to see just how they're playing, because when Gio first came, he was on fire, man. Every game, if he didn't score, he would set up an assist or two, and so maybe the first few months he was something else, and then he just disappeared all of a sudden. The Thanos snap happened, and
I would like to see Giovanni's level of play before and after his brother came. To see if they're
I think he's been poor since before he got there.
Yeah, so do I. I don't see the on fire you're talking about, Joel.
No. When he first arrived, he was.
When he first arrived, he's right. Joel is right. He did.
Was always scoring.
But then he kind of fell flat and hasn't really gotten back to that since. So his form hasn't really changed since his brother arrived. He's just been poor. Having said that, I still have faith in him. That I don't taking it to Russia. I still believe that he may have something left, that a bit of magic left in him. That I wouldn't mind seeing him maybe put in as a sub at some point, or just play in certain games.
Honestly, if Mexico needed a goal, I would much rather have Giovanni come off the bench than Jurgen down.
Yeah. So it's not the ideal situation, but the other options aren't that great.
One player who go ahead, Chiquis.
Yeah, real quick. I think Vela had a more impressive start than Giovanni. Vela's start and his goals.
Vela's doing exactly what you're supposed to do going to the MLS as a star. Like, he's legit playing like a star. Yep. So good for him.
And I think the other players like Ochoa and Guardado, the other players in Europe, some of them may eventually go to MLS, but I think there's still a mentality of the reality that MLS is a step down. And even though there's comfort and money, the desire to be in Europe and compete with the best is still in the minds of a lot of these, I would say, mentally strong players, and the rest, when it comes to the age, they can just return back to.
It wouldn't surprise me at all to see Chicharito go play in Spain next year.
Yep.
In fact, it wouldn't surprise, and if he has a decent World Cup, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him go to, because I think Valencia's back in the Champions League to go to a team like that. But if he has a so-so or an average, I think he'll still go to Spain, but he'd go to a team like Guardado to go to Betis, which is okay because they're going to be playing in the Europa League, so he'll get some extra games and things like that. But I personally believe that when Chicharito comes back, I believe that he comes back and goes to Mexico before he goes to MLS. It's just my personal.
Goes to where? Mexico?
I think
goes to Chivas, right?
I think he would go to Chivas before he'd go anywhere else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hey, can I interrupt, guys?
No, you may not.
Okay, Cuauhtemoc Blanco, he's tweeting. Obviously he's in politics now. He's running for state governor of Morelos. Well, he's got the hashtag, Juntos Haremos Historia. And you can see some of the responses, like, historia existe en el Pirata Fuentes, aquella tarde nublada cuando el semejante vergazo a medio boche le bajaban las agallas a Faitelson.
Oh, man.
If you guys start following Cuauhtemoc.
So at both ends of that altercation.
Hey, you know what, Ron? This upsets me a bit. I must say it. If you've seen some of the replies Faitelson gets,
yeah,
Man, they're downright poetic.
They are, dude.
So ingenious. But then you go.
Take the noble away from Octavio Paz and give it to those to like that dude Tio Putazo.
Well, you know,
Man.
maybe it's one of these bots. It's just like a little ad lib where they just have this, this gigantic list of,
I don't know,
okay,
man.
of synonyms with no. I agree that some of those are very creative.
No, it is like for example, the one like he's talking about the Champions League in the Ukraine, Kiev, and like the response is "Qué vergazo le diste."
And also how they refer to Cuauhtemoc, they have different names. So one of my favorite is El Domador de Montijo or something.
And the cool thing about it is that Faitelson has embraced him.
Yeah,
he finally, instead of fighting it, he finally, he's become part of the gag, which I think is fantastic. I mean, as a person, a person like that, why wouldn't you want to, become part of? Just that picture that he took was just with Wow was outstanding.
But then you see all that creativity, but then, dude, what happens at the national team level? All we have is that corner kick chant and Cielito we're limited to like 3 chants. But this it's on a daily.
Yeah.
With different stuff, you will find something different every day.
Yeah, and that's why I'm starting to go to Cuauhtemoc's his Twitter handle, because some of his stuff is just as hilarious. It's like, yeah.
Well, Chiquis was at a game very recently down at the Statistica. Chiquis, how poetic were the fans being at the game that you went to?
It's an individual talent. They're poetic in their insults to. The Pumas fans behind us were specifically poetic in their insults to Layun, Aguilar, and every Americanista that was on the.
Okay. Did they use words that you would blush if you mentioned them on the podcast here today?
They would use words expletives that are very common amongst Cubans. I wouldn't say myself. I wouldn't necessarily blush, but yeah, they would.
Hey, this is the type of stuff that Joel was talking about. Like, some of the tweets in Cuauhtemoc's Twitter feed. Mi estimado Tlatoani de Tepito, deje de perder el tiempo y haga algo que en verdad va a hacer feliz la población, y es propinarle otro putazo a Faitelson. # yo con Cuau. I'm sorry, guys. I got a kick out of this.
Well, Ron, you should over the course of a week, you should come up with your top 5, and then read your top 5 Faitelson putazos, I guess. And
I should.
Yeah, you should, because because I've seen some of them are outstanding. Like you say, you guys are right. They're extremely creative. They're don't they also call him el paladín de Tepito?
They call him el ex huelepedos de la Montijo.
What's the synonyms for hunchback though? Like
el dromedario. O la mochila, o la persona de la mochila eterna.
What's that Aztec stuff?
Tlatoani. Yeah, it's hilarious.
I was trying to find the button.
I knew that was coming.
I was trying to find the button. Well, we're still having problems with Juan, so if you can't connect,
we should invite that guy, Tio Putazo. You know that.
I want to invite Lalo, the play-by-play commentator for Chivas, who is just terrific. I'm hoping that he does that for the World Cup as well. I'm sure he will.
You need to invite him, Tio Putazo, and Gonzalo from Chivas.
Have people found Gonzalo? Is he still on the loose?
I think he is.
Yeah, Gonzalo. Agua con los chavillos.
Poor Gonzalo. All right, gentlemen. So we've talked Santos. We've talked America, unfortunately. Joel, once again, Joel, you are so lucky here in this situation because usually we have 2 or 3 Chiva hermanos on, but
That's right.
But once again, you have.
But don't be like playing the banca and then playing the, the cantera, the canterano.
You have full control of the Chivas conch.
La concha. Yeah. What?
La concha de tu chiva.
La concha. That would be a good name for a Chiva podcast. Nothing, man. The only thing that's been going on right now with the goats is Almeida. He seems like he wants to abandon ship. He's not happy with not having a competitive squad. Nothing coming in at the mercado de piernas. But there's rumors that they've told him just stay at Chivas because you're next in line after the World Cup. You're next in line, unless if JCO reaches that quinto partido, I think FMF would just bring in a truck full of money and have him stay. But other than that, we're looking at a Liga MX based coach for next, and he seems to be one of the main candidates.
So Paco de Anda this week, much later on the line, he's like, I'm the one who's picking the players. He says I may have a say, but I have the final say. And it seems to be that shouldn't the coach want to have a little bit more of a say so in the players, or a sense that they can ask the player, the coach, what kind of player do you need? I need a player that has qualities A, B, C, and D. Find me a player that has A, B, C, and D. What would you rather see, Joel, with this relationship?
I don't know, man. I always seem to value the GM over the coach.
That's right. You're more on Team Nestor and not Team Chepo.
Team Nestor and Team Pelaez. That's always been my thing. Just because Liga MX coach can come and go, and I think one of the reasons Almeida stayed for so long was because they gave him that big 5-year contract, and then when Higuera tried to boot him, he was turned down twice. I haven't forgotten, John. The North remembers, man. He went after Vucetich, who did not want to work with Vergara, and then he went after Sampaoli, who threw them under the bus, and he gave an interview where he was saying he wouldn't do that to a friend.
Wow. So, wait.
Ron's still reading Cuauhtémoc tweets.
Es like Gran Tlatuaní de Tepito, verdugo de los soberbios en el heroico Puerto Jarocho, conquistador de Galileas y Marisoles, rostro inmaculado de querubín y acacia que pasaba por la dirección.
Dude, you see that?
No te merecen, Divo.
No, it's a puto chan, man. Come on. You see what this guy wrote?
Where?
The tweet you just said, man.
The tweet you just read.
Pretty much poetic.
No, it is.
Look at the rich dude, the words. He and all we could do at the national team is yo puto, man. That's what's going on, man. There's some disparity there. I always knew their creativity was there. That, if you've grown up listening to, even seeing the old sexy comedias, Mexicans can be very creative.
Those are hilarious, dude.
We get to soccer, and then all of a sudden we just copy the Argentine chants. And when it comes to us, we have two original stuff. Huh?
I'll bring it up. Again, I don't understand why Chivas doesn't use probably the most emblematic song of Mexico. And they don't. Well, why the fans don't sing it when something happens? I mean, I can't think of a city that has a better song that represents the city more than freaking Guadalajara.
Oh, el profe is on.
Did he make it?
Yeah, is he mowing a lawn over there? No. Well, we have how many?
Say what?
How many
Ronnie,
rayas? You have cambia
but
rayas. You have
just
you
real
have
quick
Chivas.
before I forget.
Yeah.
My first introduction to those raunchy comedies
Yeah.
was actually football related. It was actually called Fútbol de Alcoba.
I'm not familiar with that one.
I'm pretty sure you've seen a version of it.
Okay.
You know how those movies go. But yeah, no, it's a famous actor. He's kind of dark skinned, curly hair, mustache. Yeah, I could probably get his name in a bit. But anyways, that's what I was thinking.
That's crazy. Dan, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we do have.
Please. I'm sorry. I see his wonderful face, and I can't wait to hear.
I thought you were talking about me, the guy with the dark skin and the mustache. So I was like, okay, well, I thought that was my intro.
No. We have much better intros than that. But
okay.
You're able to join us.
So I totally get it.
Yeah, Juan Arango joins us, and Juan, you live in Miami, and you're getting ready to call the World Cup for the Sport Max channels, and they're going to be for the Caribbean. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah. I mean, it's an exciting time. I'm pretty happy, to say the least. And plus, I'm going to be with some really kick-ass people over there. Actually, I was talking to one of my broadcast partners just recently with Brent Sancho, who's going to be part of the broadcast team. I mean, it's going to be a really interesting group of individuals, quite a diverse group of individuals that are going to be part of that Sports Max team down in Kingston. Are you going to be calling the games? Calling the games or doing the between game? I'm going to be calling the games, doing in between games, serving coffee, and maybe trying to cook some breakfast in the morning as well. Everything. And you'll be doing this down in Kingston, or are you going to do it from Miami? Oh no, Kingston. Oh wow. Kingston, and we'll have a couple of days off. We actually last time I was there when I did the Copa America for Sports Max. After the final, we all celebrated, the entire cast, crew, production crew. We drove through, from Kingston to Portland. Went to the biggest jerk festival in the world, and trust me, the views, man. That's something that I just wanted. I told my broadcast partner George Davis, who was driving. I told him, George, just drop me off here, dude. I mean, I'm driving through coffee plantations up in the mountains in Jamaica. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better. I mean, it was one of the best experiences that I really had. I was so grateful to be back with them. Are they going to be having another jerk festival while you're in Jamaica again? Of course, yeah. No, I mean it's every year. So I mean, we'll probably be driving up to Portland again, and we went to Hellshire Beach. On one of the days off, I actually flew to Montego Bay. So I mean, it was quite the experience. I mean, and it's if there's a place that you can't go, if you can't go to Russia, hey man, Jamaica's not that bad either. There are worse places to go. That's I know, right? I mean, it was tough being in Jamaica for 3 weeks. It's gonna be tough to be there for a month. Yeah, absolutely. And Kingston it's like an inland city, right? So it's not really on the coast. It's not far from the coast. It's not that far from the coast, but yeah, I mean, there is a bay. I mean, if you're near Portmore and stuff, I mean, you are near. I mean, it's an island, so I mean, you're pretty much near water anywhere you go, But still, it's a really interesting city to go to. I mean, there's so much history behind it as far as the everything from the colonial era to even the past 20, 30 years. That the first thing that you get off of your plane, you step out of the airport, the first thing you see is Usain Bolt, and then you go to Bob Marley's house, and you go to Devon House, and you start seeing the history there, and it's a really captivating country. That sounds a lot better than getting off the plane at Oklahoma City and waiting for your luggage and having Barrett Switzer come on and say, "Hey, it's Barrett Switzer. Welcome to Oklahoma." It's I would much rather see. Yeah, I mean, for that case, I'd rather have the guy that was smoking weed in front of me over at Mile High during Gold Cup. So that's that's an issue all to itself. But that's for another conversation for another time, I guess.
Absolutely. Now, Juan, we brought you on because we had been previewing the World Cup groups over the past few weeks, and we wanted to bring you on to help us discuss Group H. And but before we do that, I know that one of the other questions that we ask our guests when they come on is everyone has a team that they've followed at one point in their lives, or maybe a team that they've picked up as a kid and are still fans of the team. Is there a team for you like that, Juan? ¿Tienes un equipo de tu corazón?
Oh, well, I have two, and my explanation is because my cousins and my dad. That's the funniest thing. As a kid, my cousins understand the affinity that there is for Brazil and for Argentina. My father got me into the Brazilian national team, but obviously it wasn't a team that I felt because of the language barrier, if you will, until now that I actually speak Portuguese. But he got me into Atlético Nacional, and he wasn't a Nacional fan. He was a Medellin fan, and there's always the Medellin derby between those two teams. And one day he just said, okay, I'll take you to the stadium. It's not my team, but he took me, and I fell in love with the team. And he's like, that's one of the worst decisions I ever made. And that was the funniest part. Then my cousins got me into Boca Juniors because they were all fans of Boca, and they had posters with Chapasuñé, Maradona, with Brindisi, all of those players, Clemente Rojas. They had posters of every single one. They had a gráfico from the time that they were even before they were born. From the 1950s, they were collecting gráficos. So it was a lot of that stuff. And then, being in Colombia, you're here in the United States then.
Sorry to interrupt, Juan. Was it before like, Chicho Serna and the...
No, this was 1980.
Oh, okay, no, so yeah, that
1982. I was like, I was like 5, 6 years old. And my first World Cup was abroad. My first World Cup was on a 10-inch black and white TV, watching Brazil lose to Italy.
As it should be. As it should be. That's how everyone's first World Cup.
And it was pretty much a national day of mourning in Colombia.
There was a day of mourning in Brazil, and it was actually a day of mourning in Mexico too. So don't.
Yeah, it was saddening. I was 5 years old and not fall in love, but there was another affinity towards it. Flashback. I'm doing the math right now. Flashback, 20 years later. And my first date with my wife happened to be at La Bombonera. So while I was living in Argentina 20 years later, so it kind of ended up being like a full circle as far as everything's concerned, and that's why those two teams are my team. And then obviously from a national team perspective, my first, second, third, and fourth team are the Colombian national team.
All four of them. Now,
all four of them.
That sounds like a very normal way how one becomes a supporter. Mm-hmm. A few weeks ago, and I must tell you this because I think it's hilarious. We had Kit McConicle on, who's a local commentator here in Austin, who is a big River Plate fan. And when you ask him, well, how'd you become a River Plate fan? And he'll tell you this story about how the president of the club gave he and his mom a tour of the facilities and of the stadium and blah blah blah. Just this incredibly elaborate story about how he became a River Plate fan. I'm thinking, dude, I just watched a guy score goals on TV. That's how I became. I don't have to have this whole song and dance with the team president to get him to like the team.
Yeah. Each one has their different story. I met when I was in school in Argentina, an American guy ended up being a fan of News Old Boys just because he happened to be a pre-med student, and he thought it was interesting that the team had a nickname called the Lepers. So,
that is interesting.
So, each one has their affinity, and it was just, and people are like, hey, so, who do you like? You like LA Galaxy? You like, and they're like, he's like, no, I'm a News Old Boys fan.
So what do you do then when Nacional plays Boca Juniors in the Libertadores?
If it's in the final, I feel like I'm winning both ways. That's a tough one because I've actually been at La Bombonera when Nacional and Boca play, and I just sit there. I'm like, okay, let the best team win. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that it's like, if you're a parent and both of your kids are playing on opposite teams, who do you root for? It's kind of that kind of sensation, if you will.
Sure. How do you feel about the Mexican team absence from the Libertadores? Has it taken away, or are you impartial to it one way or the other? You just not really registered for you?
No, I'm partial to it based on where I live, and I totally understand the reasons why. I mean, it really wasn't organized the way things were being done as far as the reorganization of the Copa Lib. And it really wasn't to Mexico's convenience at that point, if you really look at it. Do the Mexican teams bring an extra something? Yes and no. Yes, they do from a competitive standpoint. But for the most part, the Mexican press and many of the Mexican fans really didn't get the meaning or the mystique of the Copa Libertadores. And I think when you saw a lot of those matches, most of those matches, I should say, there were a few. I mean, when Chivas beat Boca 4-0 back in 2005, you saw a little bit of what it meant. When America were close to eliminating Boca in 2001, and what for Walter Samuel's goal late in the match.
They just showed that goal on
Yeah.
They had like the Sunday conversation with Walter Samuel, and you'll be happy to know they showed all like 8 angles of it. So
those were the moments that you said, man, this has potential. But when you see Tigres literally go to the Estadio Monumental and literally shit their pants, then you're like, you thought that there would be more to it than that. And to me, I think that if many people in Mexico understood how important Copa Libertadores really is, I think you'd add a notch more to that, and maybe a couple of Mexican teams could have won it.
Dude, you're completely right. When it was announced that Mexican teams would no longer be competing, there was like almost no outrage.
Yeah, I mean, but that is kind of the narrative as well. I mean, I don't know who was taking a dump back there, but it sounds really. I mean, is somebody in the bathroom there?
Not that I'm aware of, but
okay, it just sounded like something. I'm like, wait, man. It sounds like my studio sometimes when I'm doing Beyond the Pitch. I'm like, wait, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You're right. There really wasn't that much outrage.
Well, I will say there was plenty of outrage on this show.
And you know what? If you did feel outraged, I completely agree with you. I mean, look, I had a chance to be exactly behind both Decio de Maria and Sunil Gulati back in 2013 when they were announcing the Copa America Centenario.
Who wears more cologne?
Oh man, I think Decio wears it for both. To be honest,
he wears enough for both of them.
Oh no, and I can tell you that because I actually sat back. I hung out with Decio right outside Mexico's hotel when they were about to play Costa Rica, and not even the rain, prevented me from smelling that cologne. It's pretty it's pretty good stuff, but still, I mean, you can smell it from a bit away. But I'm just kidding about that. But when Eugenio Figueredo, I mean, ironically, I'm talking about somebody that's about to go to prison or actually is in prison, said, you know what should happen? Maybe we should have qualifiers throughout America, from Alaska all the way to Patagonia. Maybe we should all unite and do one World Cup qualifier. The face on Sunil Gulati and on Decio de Maria, they looked at each other and said, They nodded their heads like, no.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. Because, and many people will say, well, no, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But in my opinion, Mexico doesn't go to every World Cup if they're playing in CONMEBOL. They will go to World Cups, mind you, but they will not go to every single one. And the U.S. will probably miss out on more than Mexico.
You know what, Juan? I had heard, and then this is years back when Mexico had just started competing in Libertadores and Copa America, and that was a consensus from some of the journalists that if Mexico did play at qualifiers against South American teams, that they would not. go to every World Cup, but when
Yeah.
they did go, they would be better off for it. They would be a stronger team.
I
They
believe
wouldn't just,
so.
yeah, they wouldn't just be qualifying. They would actually have something to fight for.
I don't think Mexico would be talking quinto partido all the time. I think that narrative would die if they played in South America and got better as a team. Because I think that's one of the limiting beliefs that Mexican football has, that quinto partido mentality. It's that, let's play not to lose instead of let's try and play to win. I'm not, I mean, and it sounds hypocritical on my part because I in part have been very critical about how some in the Mexican press portray Mexico as being like Germany. And I even criticize people like, I mean, I talked to Rafa Ramos and said, look, you guys think you're Germany. And much to his, one of the few times when Rafa Ramos isn't boisterous as he usually is on television, he looks at me and just gives me a dirty look and walks away. But there's many journalists in Mexico that think many Mexican journalists, that think that Mexico is Germany. And to me, that's unfair to the fans, but also unfair to the players, because the way Mexico have played in World Cups has been acceptable, has been very good. They're just not at that level that many perceive them to be. And I think that's really what's kind of jaded their performances the past few years.
What do Colombians think of Juan Carlos Osorio's performance as the Mexico national team coach?
It depends on which Colombians you talk to. For the most part, there is a consensus that the press is out to get him because he's not Mexican. He's not
Mexican, Brazilian, or Argentine. So,
well, yeah, that too. But also remember that they did go a little bit after Ricardo Lavolpe as well.
Yeah, but he had strong allies,
and he had strong allies. But Osorio didn't.
Doesn't have strong allies, right?
No, he didn't, and he didn't have the backing of Club America, or in the case of Tuca Ferretti, he didn't have the backing of Tigres or many others that helped him out. But you talk to many in Colombia, they think, why would Juan Carlos Osorio want to renew with Mexico the way he's been treated so unfairly? And you know what? And I have to amend a couple of things that I've said, and it just makes me sound like I've been a blind supporter of Osorio. There's a lot of things that I haven't liked about how Osorio has handled the Mexican national team. And, when you don't give a player continuity and repetition, and this is something that goes back, and I've been talking to people. I mean, one of the people that I listened to a lot was Gabriel Batistuta in a particular interview, and he says players need continuity, they need repetition. So if you start switching them around in different positions, you start to lose that ability to understand what you need to do. And if you really look at Mexico and how some players stand, like the positioning of them in certain positions isn't quite the one that they need to be. The way they run is not the way they need to be. And therefore, because they're not familiar or they haven't done enough repetitions in that position, that is the problem with Osorio's mentality of having so much rotation. Sometimes you over-rotate and people tend to get lost as far as what they do.
Well, sure. I mean, that's you're not telling anybody, at least on our panel, because I mean that is certainly something that we discuss pretty regularly on.
I mean, if you rotate and you give a player enough time to meld in or understand, or even give a greater understanding of one position, but his understanding of where others need to be within other positions on the pitch, or where a player needs to stand or where a player needs to run, and therefore you have a better understanding of it, then all fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, it ends up being that some of the players just don't seem comfortable in the positions that they're in.
Hey, Juan, real quick on that same topic. This is Albert Campbell, by the way.
Yeah, what's up?
On Juan Carlos Osorio, whenever after the Chile game, the loss to Chile in Copa America, he said that there wasn't really a plan B, and that's one of the things that he learned to do for the future. What do you think of that, or his statement on sort of a plan B or be prepared for going down like 3-0?
I mean, if you're preparing to go down 3-0, I mean, that really doesn't bode well for you either. I mean,
Yeah.
let's go back a day.
Well, think about that. You could say as a coach, hey, we're down 3-0. We're following our game plan perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, but those types of results, everything goes helter skelter. I mean, let's not even Osorio. Let's just put any coach. Oh yeah, and let's say Pep Guardiola comes in. Yeah, I already have a plan set when we go down 3-0. I mean, how does that sound to you as a journalist or as a fan? And your intention is to go out and impose your condition or impose your style, not to say, well, if just in case this happens, we can't do that. And again, we're dealing with a coach that does micromanage a lot in Osorio, so I wouldn't ever be surprised if he did start saying, oh, well, if it's 3-0, we go this way. If it's 2-0, we go this way. If it's 2-1, that type of thing. Then you start micromanaging too much and you start over planning and losing sight of what you need to do with a team.
Now, before we get to Colombia, where do you see Mexico?
That's a good question. That's a good question because to me, the big match for Mexico isn't Germany; it's Sweden.
Well, yeah,
and Sweden has a lot of faults very similar to Mexico. Right now, I mean, 5 or 6 players from Sweden still haven't reported to the national team camp. One's getting married this weekend. The other one happens to be Guidetti and Lindehoff. Lindehoff's getting married, and Guidetti's going to be his best man. So they're getting to camp on Monday, and you see a lot of inconsistency there. Sweden had a lot of trouble scoring in World Cup qualifiers, but they were able to do enough defensively. It's more of a team. It's a team that can really cause some problems defensively for Mexico. Mexico's a team now that's looking to go wide and is looking to have players that can play in the middle. Can Sweden shut them down in the middle and force them to go wide and exclusively wide? That could be a major problem for Mexico. South Korea's had some issues too. I mean, with a couple of injuries here and there. How are they going to be able to manage? Or is that the team that we end up overlooking and they end up getting out of the group stage for the first time since 2010? So it's not an easy path for Mexico. But Mexico is the team that others are measuring themselves to within that group. Now, what happens afterwards, that's completely up to fate.
Sure. So do you think there is going to be an afterwards then for Mexico?
There could be. I mean, I don't see why not. But you have to have a lot of players really come into their own. And in this World Cup, you might see that possibility. But then also you start to see players like Jonathan Dos Santos, like Gio Dos Santos, that haven't really been in top form. And there's a lot of dependence there. Also, the big question mark is Andres Guardado. How healthy is Guardado? I mean, that's a big question mark. Especially if you start saying, well, why is Eddie Gutierrez still on the national team? Oh, okay. You don't have a Rodolfo Pizarro out wide to really create some differences and some mismatches out wide. But then again, if you start looking where Rodolfo Pizarro usually plays on the left side, he's going to be facing a player like Joshua Kimmich. So, how effective is he going to be there? Mexico do have their inconsistencies as well. But overall, if you look at the team, they can be that one that can neutralize Sweden and be able to make some big advantages.
Mexico's in the kind of group right now where, as is almost always the case for them, and very rarely is it not, where they're going to have to expend a lot of energy to make it out of the group stage. I mean, it's going to really be a struggle. There's no question. Like I said, it's going to go down to that third game. I mean, it's going to be a playing game between them and Sweden, I think.
And I think that's the way it should be, to be honest with Mexico. Because when Mexico get comfortable, they get lost. And what better example that we can see as far as those situations than when they play a lot of their Gold Cup opponents. And when they seem way too comfortable is when they seem to be less clear as far as their ideas are concerned.
Yes, that is very true. Now, Colombia, on the other hand, I don't think is going to have a group where they're going to have to expend as much energy to advance into the knockouts of the World Cup, but their group is still trickier than most. I mean, both Senegal and Japan, I think, we're going to present a little bit more of a challenge than people think, and then obviously Poland is not going to be easy as well. But do you right off the bat, do you see Colombia just thinking, we can get to the quarters pretty easily, and then take our chances to get the semis, because it looks like they have the squad to make some noise, more so than in the last World Cup, in my opinion.
Yeah, you have a much more experienced side for sure. I think it's 6 or 7 of the starters in the last World Cup are coming back. Plus, you bring in Falcao. Plus, you get a new defensive central pairing with Davinson Sanchez and Jerry Mina in the middle. That Jerry Mina will be a question mark because of his lack of consistency ever since he got to Barcelona. But we'll see how he adapts quickly to Beckerman. The fortunate part for Colombia is the fact that they played Japan first. They've already played Japan. They played them. They were actually in the same group as Japan last time around, and they beat them pretty handily, 4-1. Japan come into this World Cup, new coach, not much time to adapt, a lot of uncertainty as far as the team overall is concerned. And obviously you still have a pretty decent nucleus, but when it comes to physicality, they're not a team that can really match up to more physical players, to more physical presences, especially up top when you have a Falcao, and especially if you have a set piece and you have either Davinson Sanchez or Jerry Mina coming in, or you have Carlos Sanchez in the middle patrolling, or you have either Abel Aguilar or Wilmar Barrios holding the middle, 2 players that are very hard to take the ball away from. They can really help transition into offense when you have James Rodriguez and maybe even Juanfer Quintero, who's seen his career resurrect at River.
So it sounds like Colombia is going to be in good hands against Japan. So is the key game then for them? Is it going to be Senegal or is it going to be Poland? Because
it's going to be Poland. It's going to be Poland, in my opinion, because that really is what sets the pace for them. That their objective is to end up first in the group.
Right.
Because remember when they switch when they go into the next round, they end up playing either England or Belgium, and right there, those 2 teams, as big of names as they all have, as tradition and all that they may have, you start looking at them, and they're teams that can tend to falter a little bit quickly when things don't go their way. Belgium has a boatload. I mean, their entire team is just like an all-star team if you want to look at it from that perspective. But in big games, how do they perform? And they haven't. England, the same thing too. And with England, you talk to people in the English press and like, well, yeah, we're getting this team ready, but we're getting them ready, especially with the youngsters that come in afterwards, to become contenders to win the World Cup in 2022. And that sounds legit. But Colombia's moment is right now, and they look to go at least into quarterfinals. And that was one of the bitter tastes of the World Cup in 2014, knowing what might have been, what could have been, and they came up so short because they over-respected a team like Brazil in that tournament.
Now, would Colombia make a decision, or I guess, or would it matter to them, because they're going to be playing their last group game on the last day of the group stage, so they'll know how the bracket has plinkoed into place after that. Mm-hmm. Would they say, you know what, we really want to avoid Team A, so if we draw or lose, then that's what's going to happen? So do they play at that, or they say, we got to play to win the group?
You got to play who you have to play at this point. I mean. Unless like things come out and they end up playing a team like Panama or someone along those lines, then maybe it'll switch a little bit. But when you have a team like England or Belgium,
I'm looking beyond that. Beyond
I mean, I don't.
Or at that point, it doesn't matter because you're playing the top.
I mean, you end up playing a team like Brazil. You end up playing. I forgot who else. I'm trying to find out who off the top of my head.
Well, it would be Brazil or Germany or Mexico. It would be
Brazil, Germany, Mexico, Sweden, whoever. Yeah.
South Korea.
Yeah, or something like that. I mean,
you said it could even
or even Costa Rica. I mean, for that matter, for all.
Or Serbia.
Serbia. Yeah. I mean, so take your pick as far as that's concerned. I mean, people in Colombia want to see. I mean, the expectations are high. They're actually higher now.
So are they semifinals high? Are they semifinals high for Colombia fans?
Maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, it's variable because there's some that think semifinals are bust, but when you play Germany, I mean, or you play Brazil, it's pretty tough to it's a pretty tough ask. If
They're
you
gonna
ask
have to
me,
earn it for sure.
yeah, if you asked me 4 years ago, what was the most disappointing part of Colombia's World Cup performance was the fact that they pretty much, kowtowed to Brazil, and they were just happy to be there until like the 80th minute when they realized, oh shit, we can beat this team, and they they got their act together, and they came up short. Controversial goal that was controversial disallowed goal or not, Colombia just let Brazil win that game. And
So
we could have been talking. We could have been talking about
habits then of why they started, like I said, why they placated Brazil so much. Was that is that an old habit that South American teams have when they play Brazil at home? It's like, we know who you are, so we're gonna.
Oh, absolutely, and that's been one of the biggest setbacks for South American teams.
And lest we forget, in that World Cup, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Chile hit the crossbar in injury time in the second half?
Yeah, Pinilla hit. Yeah,
almost beat them.
Almost beat them. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you said, Brazil was they were.
That was the worst Brazil, personally, I had ever seen, mind you, and I honestly thought, I'm like, man, Colombia can do this. Colombia can win. Colombia can win this. I mean, I'm watching it at the airport, getting ready for a flight, and I'm angry. After everything that was positive about that World Cup, it just ended up having that little bitter taste of what might have been Colombia getting to the semifinals. And to me, there was a little bit more that could have been done, and the players know it, and the players understand it. And this time around, you have a much more experienced team, but at the same time, a much younger side that can really offer some more stuff. Now, the continuity, the consistency of Colombia, and if they're dictated upon, they become a much different when they don't have the ball at their feet.
So then you fully expect Colombia to win the group?
I mean, it's demanded upon them to win it.
Well, okay, by the Fed, but I mean, in doing your analysis, would you say that they are the strongest team of this group and should win
from top to bottom? From top to bottom, yes, they are. Yes, they are, because they don't solely. I mean, like, unlike Poland, you do have some good individual players in Poland, but again, at the end of the day, they live and die by Robert Lewandowski. Let's be completely honest with that. If Colombia don't have a good match from James Rodriguez, they can bring in Muriel. They can bring in Quintero. Quintero can help out a little bit more and take away some of that pressure from James. If Falcao's not having a good game, Carlos Baca can come in. Borja can come in and offer a different dynamic as well. Different players can step in at certain moments, but collectively they have to be at their best. I mean, if Colombia is at their best, there is a very good shot that they could get to the semifinals, but that also depends on how their level of play is.
Outside of Group H, is there any team that you think that outside of the usual suspects that you think you might have a chance to sneak into the semis?
Oh man, I've thought about it, and into semis. Maybe a team like Colombia. And people have mentioned Colombia has been in many conversations as far as one of those dark horse semifinalists. Peru,
okay.
Peru. Especially if they would end up playing a team like Argentina or a team, whoever they end up crossing over from their group. To me, Peru can be the revelation team of the World Cup.
Why is that?
Ricardo Gareca. And here's the thing. I was listening to his press conference after it was pretty much a done deal as far as Paulo Guerrero not playing. And obviously there's not just the statistics as far as what Guerrero's been able to do for this Peruvian side. One of the people that really depended a great deal upon Paulo Guerrero was Christian Cueva. And when he signed to go play in Brazil, he didn't fly to Brazil right away. He stayed and he celebrated. He was with his friends and he partied and this and that. And Paulo Guerrero calls him up and said, "Hey man, did you already come to Brazil? Hey man, I'm looking." He's like, no, I'm flying out later. He's like, "What are you talking about? What's wrong with you? No. You come in now. Because, I mean, you're a professional, man. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that you take because understand and learn from my mistakes. And he's really adamant about the mistakes that he committed during his career for other younger players not to make. And that was the biggest issue with Paulo Guerrero and how he was such a leader and how he helped a lot of players. Even Jefferson Farfán, who was on the outside of Ricardo Guerrero, got to come back and become that leader he needed to be and is. And he's been able to really help. And that's been both the rallying cry and the, I guess, ingredient, if you will, that's helped gel that Peruvian side. Peru plays very well. They play very compact. They play very disciplined like previous Peru teams of the past. You have a player in Edison Flores who not very many people mention, but to me, if he is on his game and certain conditions fall in, he could be that revelation player of the tournament. And because of all that, because of the work that they do collectively, to me, Peru can be that team. Even you talk to many French coaches. It was Vicente Lizarazu a few days ago in an interview saying the biggest match for us in our group is going to be Peru. So it shows you how much this team has been able to, become this myth, if you will, between all the issues and all the strife and everything else, how collectively they've come together and how people have understood how they play. And even after when I got to see him against Croatia, Zlatko Dalic said, this team's great. This team should be doing great things in the World Cup. So, that really in and of itself tells you exactly what Peru should do and why Peru can be that team.
Well, I know that you would make Luis Michel Echegaray very happy with Luis Miguel Echegaray.
I love Luis, man, and I'm always making fun of him. I'm always putting ceviche on in his DM saying, "Oh, you got to come here, man. New York's overrated, man. You come down to Miami, you see what's up." And he, I love Luis, man. He's done so much for the Latino voice, especially here in the U.S. And he really. A guy, I love him to death. And he's done so much in such a short period of time for Latino voices and Peruvian voices and in general as well. And I think that's really a key.
Yeah, he was on the show a few weeks ago. We asked him if Peru makes it to the, I can't remember if it was the quarters of the semis, would he grow his hair out in the Ricardo Gareca style? And he said if I could, I would.
Can he grow hair?
Well, that's what he said. Now, Juan, as a Colombian fan, what player in Group H should Colombian fans be very, very leery of that they may otherwise not?
That they may not otherwise know, or yeah. The first one,
like don't get taken by surprise by this guy. This guy's really good.
As far as you talk about within Colombia or just within the
no, within the other three teams in the
Colombia. Damn. You start looking at Senegal, and first of all, you got to start looking at Sadio Mane. First and foremost, you start looking at him and what he can do. In Poland, definitely looking at Robert Lewandowski as well, and you have there's a great generation of Japanese players that have come through and have been able to make a big difference. If you want to look at one player that Colombia needs to be wary of course, is Lewandowski.
Okay.
That's top of the list. And the second one, obviously, is going to be Sadio Mane. Just those, and obviously they're well known, but those are the types of players that can make a difference in any moment, at any time.
Well, I don't want to hog Juan all to myself, so I'll throw it up to the panel. Let y'all ask Juan some questions. Albert?
I'm thinking.
That's all right, man. That's all good.
I had my Osorio one, but as far as
no, go ahead, ask. Don't worry.
Well, no,
ask more Osorio questions, man.
That was my one that I asked earlier, but as far as Colombia, I guess what is your greatest memory of the Colombian national team?
Oh man. I have way too many. I have way too many. I have an A1, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. I mean, just and a lot of them were heartbreaking, and a lot of them were, the day they qualified to Brazil, I was just, I just lost it. I mean, and I fast forward 4 years later, and I remember Peru qualifying, and I am calling Luis, and he's like, "I can't talk, man. I can't talk. I'm in tears." I'm like, it's like that. Being able to see them, qualify for Brazil also was pretty emotional as well. Being able to see them at a World Cup, their first match ever, first match at the World Cup in Brazil. I was there at the Mineirão, and it was just, it was one of the most amazing moments that I had ever experienced. It was overwhelming. I didn't know whether to cry, whether to laugh, whether to scream, it was like that. I was jumping on top of people I'd never even met in my life, and we're screaming goals together. When James scored, this old 85-year-old lady jumped on top of me and hugged me, and then another guy jumped on. It's just this big, massive humanity as far as that's concerned. The goal that Freddy Rincon scores in the 1990 World Cup against Germany. So, you have a lot of moments, and just like everybody does, like you might with Mexico or anybody else might have with their respective national teams. It's just a lot of emotions and a lot of pride as well.
Yeah, I was really into the Brazil-Colombia game. That was an intense game.
Were you watching the game, or were you watching what was going on around the crowd?
Oh, the game. What was going on?
Okay.
Yeah, I was that was like a intense, rough.
Oh yeah. Just ask Neymar, right?
Yeah.
It was just a very cynical game. Unfortunately, it was.
You know what it did? It turned into that, and at the end, I was just like, damn, Colombia could have won this, and that was the most disappointing. That was the bitterest taste I had. There's no other way. It just seemed like, oh my God, they're just so respectful. They're, hey, let me get you up. And I'm like, no. This is competition, man. We're no longer fans of Brazil. They're our enemies. We got to beat them. Especially this Brazil. If we don't beat them now, we're never going to beat them. And it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I guess one last, I guess it's sort of a comment on the
sure, go ahead.
The Libertadores. I'm of the opinion, I think John sort of mentioned a little bit, but when Mexico, or if Mexico ever does go, or Liga MX teams ever go back into the tournament, I think until a Mexican team wins it, they just need to drop Liga MX and any other tournament that they're in and go full force into the local Libertadores as their first priority.
Yeah, but there's also there's also interest involved in that from a sponsorship perspective. CONCACAF's doing what they can to really try and pump up the Champions League, and they're doing. Overall, the formatting helped in order to get a team like Toronto or get a team like the Red Bulls deeper as much as possible and be able to contend against a team like Tigres, and because there's been a lot of arguments in favor and and against. No longer can MLS teams use the excuse of saying, well, you know what, it's the beginning of the season and this, that, the other. No. You competed just very fine just last year. So what are you going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I can take the devil's advocate position and say, well, you know what, you're barely able to handle the MLS teams. What makes you think you're going to handle the teams in South America?
I think it's a different mentality though. Like Liga MX teams have sort of this superiority, that they feel superior to MLS, so they may not go into the tournament as they would a Libertadores when they think, they think, that South America, these are really good teams. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. We're not supposed to win. Mm-hmm. And the mentality when Mexican teams go to South America is totally different, I think.
Maybe, but you even start talking to people and they say, well, Mexico is probably the best league in the region. If not number one, it's one of those podium leagues. If it's not number one, it's number two. If it's number two, it's a very close number three. if that. It depends on the year. But no, I mean, there's a great deal of respect for Mexican teams. Although the more prominent voices would express otherwise, there's a great deal of respect for Mexican teams. The thing is that South American teams will play all comers, and the Mexican teams are more buying teams, while the South American teams, by default and by force in many occasions, most of them are teams that are selling just to stay alive.
Yeah.
Do you think, Juan, that there's ever there'll ever be an opportunity to have a true Pan American club tournament?
If the money's there.
So you think that would be the
yeah. I mean, look, South American teams are willing to fly anywhere at any time, at any expense in order to play these teams. I mean, if you tell Boca to go play the Seattle Sounders or Vancouver Whitecaps in a Copa Lib match, they'll jump on a plane and do it. I mean, sometimes what's funny is that people don't understand that sometimes the logistics within Copa Libertadores. I mean, there's teams that can fly from Buenos Aires to Bolivia and it takes them 24 hours because of the amount of flights that they have to take and and all that. So I mean, teams like that are used to being able to fly these ridiculous types of amounts of time. The teams on this end really aren't, because the logistics are much better. But the South American teams will play you anytime, anywhere, whether it's for money or if it's for a tournament.
Joel, did you have a question?
Yes, sir. Juan, what happened in Colombia with the national team from '94 when they were one of the favorites to win the tournament? And then in '98, they get eliminated in the group stage. And then they miss out on 3 World Cups going into 2014 when they were one of the more exciting teams to watch. So what happened in that time span? That Colombia crashed, and then they picked themselves up again, and they're right back where they belong.
I mean, if you want to break it down between '94 and '98, obviously all the extracurricular things that occurred. I remember going to a Colombia AC Milan match here in Miami, and once I saw this shirt, I'm like, oh, we're done. It said Colombia World Champions. This is like, I think, if I recall correctly, like maybe about 10 days before the World Cup started. And I started seeing that. I'm like, oh my God. My dad even turned around and said, no, please. No, that we jinxed it, and it was like that. And there was a lot of other things that were going on, some things that have been well known and some that are still kind of like a little bit in the darkness as far as what occurred in that World Cup. There was just a lot of distraction. The hotel where Colombia was staying during the World Cup, it was just filled with visitors and fans and a lot of intermingling and a lot of extracurricular stuff that really didn't help the national team focus on top of the other stuff that was going on that was more criminally related, if you will. That '98 team, when it arrives, it's many of the big players are already on the downside of their careers. I mean, Carlos Valderrama gets there and he's 37 going on 38. You don't have the same type of dynamic. You don't have the same type of horizontal play that you had with players like Rincon. Asprilla didn't have the best World Cup performance at all. I mean, the only player that scored a goal in '98 was Preciado. Later, Preciado scores against Tunisia in the 89th minute, and Colombia squeak out a 1-0 win. And after that, of course, they get smashed by England and get knocked out rather quickly. But after that, you see a whole different generation and a lot of instability. Yeah, they did win the Copa America in 2001, but that never really translated into true success for Colombia because of the instability. You had Jorge Luis Pinto, and then a whole host of coaches that came in. Maturana would come in, and there was just a lot of dependence on the past and trying to find the next Valderrama and trying to find the next. And a lot of those teams that that get so obsessed with trying to find the next guy, the next Messi and the next Maradona and the next, or in the case of the United States, they're trying to find their American version of it. They get so obsessed with it that they kind of lose focus in trying to develop players. They were being developed, but there really wasn't a team around it, and there really wasn't someone that really got things together in such a way that made the national team strong until Beckerman came along and really came through and made things happen. I mean, so much so was that Marcelo Bielsa one day, I think it was back in 2008, he interviewed for the Colombian national team, came up with hundreds and hundreds of dossiers of every single player that he had scouted from the Colombian national team pool. Those guys, we need to do this better. And he put down the conditions. They said no. Beckerman came in a few years later. I remember because when Beckerman was signed, he actually knocked my sister-in-law off a flight that was coming to Miami, and Beckerman actually jumped on that flight last minute. He knocked her off the flight, flew into Miami, and signed the contract here in South Florida.
Well, did he thank her in the press conference? So hey,
I told him that once, and he laughed. He's like, "Oh, well, tell her I'm sorry," But I mean, she told me that story. She's like, "Yeah, no, I was I was getting there, my bags weighed and everything, and all of a sudden, boom, Jose Beckerman comes in and says, I need to fly to Miami now."
We had him in our grasp, man. He had been in Mexico with Tigres.
He was coaching at Toluca when Hugo was fired.
Right.
He was right there.
Yeah,
I remember Martin wrote an article in the Medio Tiempo. He said my bet is Beckerman, but then they went and got the Swedish guy. But he was right there. He was
he was right. I mean, he. You know what? I remember that, and it's. I'm glad because the talk was that he was going to go back to Mexico. He's like, well, I'm gonna. I think he had just left Toluca. He went back to Argentina on vacation, and the rumor was that he was going to go back to Mexico and become the coach of Mexico. But at the last minute, he turned around. I mean, it was a very last minute thing, and he just jumped on a plane, came to Miami, as that was where the former president, the one actually is in prison right now here in the United States. They met up, and they agreed to terms. And a couple of days later, Jose Beckerman was announced as national team coach of Colombia.
Well, see, then it sounds more and more like your sister-in-law should be hailed as a national hero then.
And she should.
Yeah.
She should. I'm trying to get her a jersey, but she's too much into Argentina. So but I mean, everything's gone well for better or worse with Beckerman. I mean, there's been a lot of controversy as far as the people that he surrounded himself with. Not Esteban Cambiaso, who's going to be joining that coaching staff pretty soon, as he becomes one of Beckerman's assistants on the national team. But it's been his son-in-law, Pascual. His son-in-law actually is an assistant as well as a player agent. So they've been talking about the conflicts of interest that have been going on. And mind you, some of the Colombian press have been very.
Why is it always the yernos?
I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't know why. I mean, hey, but he found the business and he did what he had to do. So I mean, but overall, Beckerman's on-pitch success has been extremely effective.
Well, Juan, before we let you go, I do have to ask you who wins the World Cup.
Oh, dude, come on, man! If I knew, I would already put money.
Come on. Well,
and now here's the worst part.
So here's $100. Here's $100. Here you go. Put $100.
No! Don't even do that. That's. I mean, might as well put your money in the stock market. You have a better chance of getting something out of it than getting a right bet out of me. Because I could have the best bet in the world, and I will. I don't know. I always get it wrong. I always get bets wrong. That's why I don't do predictions. I'll tell you what could happen, but I'm not going to tell you about predictions because I'm horrible at it.
Well, we're all horrible at it.
That's why I never got into gambling, because I know I would never win. I never get the high of knowing of winning.
Juan and I picked Cruz Azul to win the Clausura this time around.
Yeah, I mean, with my luck, I would have picked Lobos WAP to stay up. So I mean. Well, they kind of did, so it wouldn't have been such a bad proposition, right?
That's right. So you would have won the bet.
Yeah.
On the technicality.
Yeah, there you go.
It's fine. You don't want to make a prediction. I understand, but
I mean, if there's a team that definitely have to look at is Brazil, because of how together they are, and there is a bit of a chip on their shoulder, and they understand what they need to do. Germany can be probably the best team from 1 to 23, 1 to 24, 1 to 27, 1 to 35 on their list, if you want. But will they start to feel upset if number 2 doesn't get the playing time that number 1 gets? You know, if Marc-Andre Ter Stegen's had a sensational season with Barcelona, and all of a sudden, Manuel Neuer ends up, overtaking him, is Ter Stegen going to take that just like, okay, no big deal? Or is he going to say, no, this is my position, man. I've worked it this year. I don't care how great you are, but this year has been my year. I've earned my spot. A lot of other players that come in. How is that going to be working with Germany? Can you do that all the time? That's going to be the big question mark with Germany. Spain, maybe they're one World Cup cycle away from just being absolutely dominant, and we'll see when the pressure's really on them, how they respond. They've been tremendous in World Cup qualifying play, but when they really have pressure on them, how are they going to perform? But to me, the one that's been able to perform and overcome, because a good portion of this Brazil side has been to hell and back with that 7-1 and having to live with that. And they've become better players, the ones that are still there. They've become better players because of that. How are they going to overcome that? And I think that's the one that may be stronger because of the adversity that they've had to overcome.
Anybody else have any questions before we turn Juan loose?
Yes, 2 more.
2 more questions from Juan.
Ask away, man. Ask away.
Dos más. Is this Peckerman's last stand with Colombia? Is he renewing after the World Cup, or is his cycle done?
It looks like his cycle will be done. I don't see him going like Tavares. I don't see him really wanting to stay 4 more years, unless they have a tremendously magical run and they do get to semifinals, and you do have that justification saying, oh well, yeah, he's the team's improving. You do have players that are pretty much in their last World Cup. Falcao, one of them, but you do have a lot of that will be at their prime come 2022. So how, do you want to change something that's working, or what do you end up doing? You still have players out there that could make a difference come 2022. Edwin Cardona won't be one of them because and I've always said he's a world-class player, but has a Sunday beer league mentality. That's a good question. And who would end up coming to replace him? Osorio, maybe? And Peckerman's had very weird ways of managing the national team despite the success. He's very hermetic. He's not the type that shares a lot of information. He's the type that really has some, quirks here and there as far as how he manages the team from the outside in, or from the inside out, I should say. And he's had his confrontations with the press as well, although he manages it completely different than anyone else does. So, does he want 4 more years of that? I don't know. And he might want to just walk off afterwards being the most successful national team coach in Colombian history. That, to me, would probably be a better justification. I don't see him wanting to be a Tavares type of figure for 12 years. And your second question was?
Oh, were you expecting so many Colombian coaches to be in CONCACAF? Because I always thought that could be Mexican coaches, but then I think the Colombianos just swooped in and they took our jobs, man.
Yeah, we tend to do that a lot. Look at the last World Cup though. Costa Rica had Pinto.
Yeah.
Ruedas, right?
Rueda.
Yeah, Rueda with Honduras, and there was one more. I think was it Suarez with Ecuador? I think it was. I'm trying to remember.
Also Panama. They helped reboot their program. Yeah.
Yeah, what bully you with Panama now? Yeah, I mean it's funny because you have so many. I think it was like after Argentina and Portugal, it was Colombia with the most amount of coaches in the World Cup last time around, and Colombia's up there again. And it has 3 national team coaches, and none of them, and the national team of Colombia is Argentine, so it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I mean, but look, I mean, coaches like Pinto, like Rueda, they all went to Germany to get their badges. They constantly are always traveling. I mean, in Mexico, you see with Osorio and the pictures he's taken with Alex Ferguson and Pep Guardiola and Ariel Holland over in Argentina. So you start to see that Colombian coaches, for the most part, are always looking to continue to evolve as coaches and trying to find the new trends and trying to be more tactical in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, I mean, from the hard work that they put in as far as the film, and that's gone back since the days of Carlos Bilardo when he came to Colombia, and he really implemented watching film and consistently, watching 4, 5, 6 hours of film. And a lot of those disciples, Gabriel Ochoa Uribe back in the 70s and 80s was one of those coaches that implemented a lot of Billardistic type of principles as far as coaching is concerned, and a lot of those coaches fell in line in Colombia as well.
That's really impressive, man. That they do all that, because I get the feeling for Mexican coaches, they'll just probably, like, you had Hugo Sanchez who went to Nicaragua, I think, and he just filled out some paper and he got his credentials. And then other guys, they just go online and they get the Cruyff Institute certificate online.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just that with Colombian coaches, they always want to go. I mean, Pinto's one that's always said, "Hey, I go to Germany." I mean, Reinaldo Rueda went to study in Cologne to go and learn about that. He's constantly going to these seminars, and people are always impressed about that. And that's what made him such a successful coach at Nacional, replacing Osorio and really taking that team to the next level. And what he's able to do with Chile now, that's going to be an interesting set of circumstances, especially if you start looking at Chile going into Copa America next year.
Oh, speaking of, do you think there will be another Copa America Centenario now that U.S. and Mexico are not going to the next edition, but could we see another Centenario type edition?
Well, I think it was announced for 2020, wasn't it? Or has it been official yet? I mean, I know that they were looking to get into that as far as 2020 here in the United States. I'm talking about. I mean, unless that hasn't been the case, then I don't see anything else really happening. And there's people that are in favor of it, just like there's detractors. I mean, when you heard Tavares, getting screwed as he had to have 3 cross-country flights to play 3 matches, and that's pretty extensive for him. While there was others.
You and I were right there with him, if I'm not mistaken.
Of course, yeah, we were there. Yeah, we were at that press conference when he complained about it. Absolutely, yeah. He wasn't too happy about it because out of all the teams that played in that tournament, Uruguay were the one that got screwed as far as logistics were concerned.
I remember.
But it happens to everyone. The U.S. were one of the teams that got screwed in Brazil for the 2014 World Cup too, because they were like the second team with the most amount of miles that were accumulated in that World Cup, and they got knocked out in the second round.
Anybody else have any questions for Juan before we cut him loose? Well, Juan, do you have any questions for us?
What are you guys doing for the World Cup?
What are we doing here at the podcast? Or
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're podcasting during the World Cup.
Una peda. It depends how the team does.
Oh man!
But then I think that would result in getting
wait. Where are you guys gonna be at? I mean, specifically, like physically. I mean,
I'm gonna be in Lakeway, Texas, which is just west of Austin.
That's not. That sounds like a really happening place over in Austin, man.
Well, we are on the banks of beautiful Lake Travis here at the homestead here, so it's actually very nice. So it's
Yeah, man. I liked San Antonio, man. I really dug it. I thought it was like all desert and just oil rigs and stuff before I got there. But
that's West Texas.
Oh, okay, that's West Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
No, we're in the hill country. It is the prettiest part of the state. The hill, in my opinion, here in Texas.
Okay, cool. I gotta head over there, man. You know, like I was really thinking about going to South by this year, but it just didn't work out. But maybe next year, man. I gotta head over there.
Come on down.
Because when I was there, I was hey man, let's go eat at McDonald's. McDonald's, dude, what the hell is wrong with you?
Trust me, the Mexican food in San Antonio is awful.
Huh? Well, I mean, dude, but no, you haven't tasted the Mexican food here. To me, it tasted phenomenal. Trust me, especially after the direct that you eat here in Mexican food wise.
Well, you have all the cevicherias and stuff there. You have to.
I have everything. I have the Colombian food. I have the Argentine food. I have the Peruvian food. I have the Caribbean food. I have the pupusas. I have everything except Mexican food. everything except Mexican food. It's like you can't find good Mexican food in South Florida.
That's funny. Do you think they would have at least one Mexican restaurant in that gigantic Televisa compound that's there?
No. Actually, there's an Argentine bakery 2 blocks away.
Is there? How funny.
But the Televisa and the Univision compound is in a neighborhood predominantly Venezuelan. So,
is it? Just leaving the airport and seeing this gigantic.
Yeah, man. That's a Venezuelan neighborhood now.
Okay.
That's where all the Venezuelan expats live now. That's Doranzuela now. So.
Well, to answer your question, at least what we did for the Confed Cup is we always do like post game, like immediately after the game.
Oh, cool, man.
So we'll probably do that, and I'm a World Cup junkie, so I'll probably do
man, if they're and I hope that if you can, I mean, hey, not that I'm trying to plug them or anything like that. There's a lot of good things that are going on as far as extra World Cup coverage, man. I mean, what Sportsmax is going to be doing. And I'll probably they've already announced it, so it's no big deal. They're setting up a World Cup channel, a channel exclusively dedicated to the World Cup, and on top of that, they have the rights to the World Cup in mobile.
Oh, really?
Yep. So people can watch the World Cup on their cell phones throughout the Caribbean. So I mean, and if you can find it here, I mean, maybe you can try and sneak in a couple of matches.
Well, they should post some of y'all's. Post whatever it is clips. Like if you have a great goal call, post that.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
are you doing play by play, or are you doing?
I'm doing everything. I'm doing everything from play by play to brewing coffee. And I'll probably even make some. You see, that's the thing that you guys don't have in San Antonio or in Texas. You don't have Cuban coffee, man. You need to get Cuban coffee. You need to get Cuban food. And then I'll move over.
We have one Cuban restaurant here in Austin. At least we used to. It was in South Austin. I don't know if it's there anymore, but it was very good.
I mean, hey, but Austin's a pretty cool town. Plus, I have a couple of friends over in Dallas and in Houston. Yeah, man, I gotta go head over there, man. Maybe I can hang out with you and Tim Ferriss over in Austin.
Ferriss?
Yeah, he lives there now, man.
That's funny.
Yeah, he moved to Austin, man.
So when are you heading to Kingston to start your prep? For all these things?
Probably like 4-5 days before the World Cup, because there's a lot of things that need to be recorded World Cup shows and rehearsals and everything like that. Trying to sneak everything in. So, man, I'm hyped, man. I really am. It's a great time to be a football fan, man. It really is. It is. If you're not a football fan, it's a great time to become one.
Yeah, the first couple of weeks of the World Cup, it's like Christmas morning, every morning, because you have a game on at 7:00 in the morning or whatever it is. When the ones are over in Europe, it's just, yeah, it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, if anyone who went to Brazil will tell you that was just the perfect World Cup. It just, people would be up till 6 a.m. and then get up at 10 to go and see what happened, the day before. I mean, it was just sensational. I mean, it was, that's why I'm so hyped about going to Copa America next year.
No, that's going to be, it'll be fun it won't be fun for Mexico because Mexico's not going, but it will be fun for
Yeah,
everybody else.
you guys suck, man. You guys have to go.
Hey,
Come on. I mean, they love Mexico down there.
Hey, it was again, it's not anything that we haven't discussed here on the podcast. I know it's
it's not something that people were pissed about. It. They're like, what's wrong with the Gold Cup? But I understand. I mean, if Confederations Cup is still around somewhat, kind of, I don't know. It's kind of like still on life support. Why not? Why not try and win the Gold Cup and try and see if you can get to the final one, see if it ends up happening. But I mean, it's just not logistically convenient, because then you end up having a Gold Cup that's diluted. I mean, we saw it last time around with the Mexican national team. There wasn't that enthusiasm for Mexico that many would have had, say, Chicharito and Gio and the rest of the gang that would have been there, would have played in that one. You probably would have seen absolutely filled stadiums everywhere.
Sure. Well, that's the topic for another day. But it's when they do it every 2 years, it's what's going to happen. Juan Arango, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with all your coverage that you're starting down with Sports Max in Kingston, and safe travels down there, and have a great time.
Thank you.
I'm very jealous. It sounds like it's going to be a great.
Well, dude, why don't you just fly over, man? We'll just hang out a weekend.
Let me just hop on the plane, and I'll be.
Well, yeah, come on. You're the one with the big bucks, so why not?
Yes.
I have to be flown there. It's not like I can just jump on a plane and go.
Right.
You can do that.
I wish I could. Well, I appreciate it. No, seriously, have a bunch of great shows and a great month, and enjoy every minute of it.
You too, man. Thank you so much for having me on, and I really appreciate it. And best of luck to you guys, man. Best of luck to Mexico too, and hope you guys kick some ass.
All right.
Thanks, Juan.
Thank you, Juan.
All right, man. All right, take care, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Later.
Juan Arango joining us here on the CantinaMX podcast was very enlightening, as our guests usually are. We've had good luck with guests over the past couple of months while we've done these previews. So really appreciate Juan coming on. Anybody, you boys have thoughts on anything that Juan said?
Yeah, I want to get Mexico back into Libertadores.
Well, I mean, the last year that they played Libertadores, Chiquis, it was Pumas, right? And we were talking about it because it was the first year we had the show. And the previous time that Pumas had been in the Libertadores, they were terrible. I mean, they lost all 6 of the group. I mean, it was an embarrassment.
Yeah.
And this time,
they need to figure out. I mean, Mexico just needs to send the best, like the winner of the last.
That's gonna be difficult given that CONCACAF wants, the top league. They want the champions for their tournament, so it's pretty difficult to do that. But I wanted to comment on he said just the level of passion over there for the tournament, or just how much they value it. And I was in Asunción in 2013, and I was in a taxi, and the guy asked me what my team was, and I said Guadalajara, thinking he wasn't gonna know, and he still remembered, man. He still remembered that Chivas team. Even college. Yes.
He tried to fight you?
No. He was, I think Paraguayos have always been welcome in Mex. So
was he an Olympia man?
I forgot, dude. To be honest, I forgot.
Come on, Joel.
Well, there was, because I asked them, because all the taxis over there they'll have like a banner of whatever team.
Exactly, it's hanging from their mirror.
Didn't have one, and he's like, "What's the neighborhood I work in?" He's like, "If I put my team, they're gonna start pelting me with rocks." So I was like, "Oh, all right, makes sense."
Wow.
Yeah, and also I was in Buenos Aires, and one of the host families I would stay with sometimes, big Boca Junior fans, and they remember that Chivas team, and so yeah, like, so yeah, it sucks, that we don't value those tournaments we don't make a big stink out of that.
Yeah, it really is
we don't seem
unfortunate.
to care.
I will give credit to Pumas though. I mean, they came within penalty kicks of making the semifinals. They lost the penalty kicks in the quarterfinals, so they obviously took the tournament extremely seriously. It was the last good display that Pumas had, and that was what going on now 2 years ago. So it's been a while since we've seen Pumas do well. So Juan pretty much expects Colombia to kind of sounds like waltz through the group there in Group H. So I don't think there's really didn't seem that there was any pushback from a lot of y'all. So seems like you guys are probably in agreement with that.
Yeah, I agree with his assessment.
Now the question is, are they going to have the capacity? Because they should make the. I mean, I think especially I think they can beat Belgium pretty handily. I don't know if they. I mean, at least England, I think is going to be a little bit more of a toss-up. So in essence, they should make the quarterfinals where they'll either play, Mexico or Germany. No,
what are you talking about again?
So they'll play either, in all likelihood, either Brazil or Germany.
Oh, jeez.
And I do want to make one clarification because I must have seen the bracket wrong when we first did our things, because for the whole time since the December draw, I thought that A, B, C, and D were on one half of the bracket, and then E, F, G, and H were on the other. But it turns out that and then that is the case through the quarterfinals. But on the semis, then they mix those boxes up. So if Brazil and Germany both finish first in their group, I thought they'd meet in the semis. No, they can only meet. If that is the case, they would only meet in the final. So I've actually been making okay about that. So the whole time, this whole past 6 months, I've thought that they would meet in the semifinals. Notice that just the other day. So again, it would either be Brazil. It would be Brazil or Germany. In all likelihood, would be who Colombia would face in the quarterfinals. And with the fact that they have so much experience and they have one of the better strikers in the world and what seems like a pretty solid defensive pairing, they might have a really good chance to be that team that surprise team to make it to the semis. Colombia. I mean, I know that Germany and Brazil are good, but I think that they're still beatable. I mean, it's not like they're going to just kill everybody 5-6-0. Nil.
I think, well, it would be a huge surprise if they were to get past either of those teams, I think.
Well, how big of a surprise would it be? I mean, would it be that? I mean, yeah, it would be an upset, but I mean, is it really that much of an upset?
Seems like these teams seem to rise to the top, whether by their own skill and team play or by refs and other types of decisions. I just think back at the game they lost to Brazil the last time and how things went.
Yeah, the refs were making sure that Brazil was going to win that game. It seemed like.
Yeah.
And Brazil, and like I said, I mean, because of that, Brazil was I mean, they were just hacking away. I mean, just Colombia couldn't do anything because every time they have their foot on the ball, they'd just tear them to pieces, just cut them down. It's awful. Very unfortunate. Okay, so then they would be that surprise. They would be a surprise semifinal team by definition of. So it would be a huge surprise then.
I think Andrew,
surprise semifinal.
What were the round of 16 is England and who else?
England, Belgium, or Tunisia or Panama.
Yeah, I think Colombia can get through those guys.
Yeah, that would not be a surprise if they beat either of those two teams at all. So the bigger surprise would then, no. Granted, it wouldn't be like as big a surprise if say Mexico beat, Brazil or Germany in a quarterfinal. That would be a massive surprise. And I'm going to say this because Mexico hasn't advanced that far, ever in a tournament. That's what would make that. So
I'm gonna make a prediction. I think I've mentioned it before, but like in every World Cup, it seems there's one mistake either by the coach. Actually, it's by the coach. Has made one mistake that has cost Mexico.
Are you going to make the prediction of the actual mistake, or just saying that the
I'm just saying
prediction
that
someone's
I'm
going to make a
looking
big
forward
mistake?
to seeing what that mistake is that Osorio does.
You're looking forward to that?
Well, I'm not looking forward, but I'm interested in seeing what that.
You're already expecting it.
I'm expecting it.
It's an 8-man rotación.
Because I think wasn't it Aguirre, and it wasn't really like a big deal, but like the question of taking out
No, Aguirre took out Ramon Morales.
Well, that was before. Okay, he took out Ramon Morales. Then his second time around, he didn't put in Guardado or something, right?
Well, he didn't. I mean, he didn't do that, and then he also like Medina was playing really well. The whole Ochoa Conejo thing was.
Yeah, that one that didn't really cost anything, but. And then Herrera with the bunker, and then I forget what else. I must have skipped a World Cup. I don't remember. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
So it's like when you're reading you're in high school, you have to read all the Shakespeare plays. You have to like find what's the climax of the what's the one decision in the play that changes things from here on out. And you're thinking that's the Mexico coach is going to make that fatal mistake.
Here, I'm gonna go through the lineup.
I'm gonna shut down my computers and I'm out.
All right, Ron. Thanks for joining us.
Are they kicking Ron out of a Starbucks? You need to buy something, Ron. I'm going through the list. I say if you're a Starbucks, you have to buy something.
Oh yeah.
Just go in there for their bathroom and.
Not anymore.
Oh, hey, by the way, Mauro Icardi from Argentina. Do you guys think he was left off because of?
Oh yes.
Because
Pito Loco.
but specifically, it was with another player's wife, right?
Yeah, he married her though. The gentleman thing. It was Maximiliano Lopez.
Yeah, because I was reading that Maxi Lopez is really good friends with Messi, and that apparently Messi didn't want him in there. I mean, obviously it's dimes and diretes, but don't know how true that is.
But also she's like a player agent.
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing where they just didn't want her around.
Good Lord. Well, again, the way I feel about that is, I mean, I know that it wasn't like the greatest team ever, but just look at how awful USA it was in France '98.
Oh yeah.
And it all stemmed from a similar situation. So
England and France too.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, with John Terry and yeah. So I mean, this has happened before, and it's the teams that don't cut the head of the snake.
So you wouldn't have taken him, John, either? You think you wouldn't have taken him either?
Well, I mean, if it's going to cause a major locker room problem, then no. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, and plus, I mean, no offense, but Argentina can afford to not take him.
So who would you not take, like Icardi or Maxi Lopez, assuming that both were good enough to be on the team?
And which one is Messi's best friend, Maxi Lopez? So the other guy's got to go.
Okay, but assuming they weren't Messi's friend, Messi's best friend, who would you take? Maxi or Icardi?
Oof, it's a tough question.
Because at one point you got to think, okay, well, Icardi must be the alpha male. And,
This is what I would do, man. I would do this. I would take them both if they're both worthy. I'd say get over your feelings and let's play the game. This is a soccer game and a team sport. You don't need to have all this out of the extra cancha stuff going on.
Oh, speaking of extra cancha, Ronaldinho, I read he was supposed to marry 2 women. That's pretty badass.
At the same time, right?
At the same time. That's how they're getting.
Sounds like something that would have happened on Boogie Nights.
Hashtag me too.
And El Trataoni de Tepito. If you guys saw the '98 World Cup, they were doing like profiles with the families, and then they showed his wife. So he had married her when they were teenagers, and you could just tell she wasn't gonna last, man. Nothing against her, but this guy was on top of the Mexi world, and his wife just was maybe just not that attractive.
Yeah, but anyway, to answer your question, Ron, about which one would I take of the two?
Yeah.
I mean, if I could only take one, because if the other one wouldn't come, then I would take the one that can help me win games more. And if that's Icardi, then I would take Icardi. But the whole Messi thing, you got to keep Leo happy. So
That's true.
if that means having Maxi Lopez on the team. It's like that guy that remember when Dennis? Well, not that I'm comparing Messi to Rodman, but it was that guy like Jack Haley, whatever it was, that was the guy to keep Rodman happy on the team.
I remember vaguely about that.
Yeah. So that's what I would do there. Well, Ron, it was good to have you on, man. I know that we've missed you the past couple of weeks. It's always very convenient when America falls apart that Ron doesn't call in. But if they won, you bet you bet your ass Ron would have been on the show. There's no question. There's no question. See, you say that every time, and every time it happens.
I think he came on after the loss, right?
No,
yeah, I think so.
I don't think so.
Did I?
I was surprised that
you have to go back to the tape. No, because we didn't get to play the stat flute or anything for him. So yeah,
because normally I post that picture of I'm in my room alone crying. Don't bother me.
That's right. That's right.
Like a salt audio clip related to salt.
It's like that picture that Joel posted. This is the picture of the Dead Sea, the saltiest place on earth. Or what was it, Joel?
Second only to your salty ass.
That's very good. Well, gentlemen, do we have? Before we go, we should probably talk at least a little bit about the Champions League final that's this weekend in Kiev between Liverpool and Real Madrid, two of the royal families in European, well, in world soccer, European soccer specifically, and I just don't see Liverpool doing enough to take it from Real Madrid. I think Real Madrid is going to win. They're going to win pretty comfortably. I think they'll win like 2, maybe even 3-1.
So this will be their third straight champions.
It'd be the third straight. They would be the first team to do that since the tournament became the Champions League, but they would be the fourth team to do it overall when it was the European Cup, and they've done it. I mean, they won five in a row to start the whole thing, and then Ajax did it, and then Bayern did it both in the 70s, and Liverpool's won it twice a few times too. So Liverpool's won this thing too, so it's not like they're a pushover. I mean, this is. There is a lot of history going on between these two teams, but I do think that at the end, I think Liverpool's defense is just too porous, and with the guys that Real Madrid has, you can't have a defense like that and think that you're gonna win. So I think Real Madrid is gonna win it pretty easily. My personal opinion.
I agree.
If Cristiano wins it, where do you rank him all time?
I
think if he wins this one, I think you could rank him as Mr. Real Madrid more than Di Stefano. I mean, his statistics are God, man, they're amazing.
No, I mean it is impressive, and Di Stefano would probably be the first one to agree with you. I mean, he really, just these last 3 years, specifically, in his 30s, no less. I mean, it's not like he's doing this, at 25, 26. He's doing this at 31, 32, 33. I mean, it really, and he's been the level of consistency that he's shown, even in the Manchester United days to now, is phenomenal. To be that good for that long is really impressive.
Even honestly, if he wins this, even without a World Cup win, I think
he just nudges Picolin off the.
He does have a Euro Cup.
I mean, honestly, yeah, he does. He does have a European Championship, which to me, I think puts him in that category of Pelé and Maradona.
And I would sometimes say that winning an Eurocopa is a little harder than winning the World Cup.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's when you look at the statistics. Like, I mean, I always see these, Messi, Ronaldo's stats, but I mean, Messi's been with them since he was 17, 16 or something like that.
Yeah, he really didn't start playing
until he was like 19 or 7 or 8.
Yeah, till like 2005, 2006.
Right. Yeah. But it's just, I mean, I tend to wonder what Ronaldo would have, like, his numbers looked like if he would have been, like, if he would have just never gone to Manchester and gone straight to Real, because, I mean, his numbers, dude, his goal to game ratio is just amazing.
No, it's very perfect. It's almost as high as Omar Bravo's. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. All-time Chivas goal scorer.
That's right.
It took like 50 years to.
And again, he's probably going to score on Saturday. He's going to take his shirt off, and again, it's like, dude,
Chickies were like that.
You're making a lot of money. Why don't you go to the gym and put a little meat on those bones? Because, all you see is his rib cage. It's Jurgen Damm.
Oh, yeah.
Has better physique and form than Ronaldo. I mean, seriously, go to a gym, dude.
Him and Pulido.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, gentlemen, do we have any? Does anyone else need to conch for anything, or can we go ahead and wrap it up?
Yeah, no, we've said it all now.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up then. This has been the CantinaMX podcast, and we do thank our guest Juan Arango for coming on. And again, just to recap, he expects Colombia to win Group H pretty easily. It sounded like he was leaning on Poland to take the second spot, and then he expects Colombia to at least make the quarterfinals. So that's where the conclusion of our group previews lands us. Joel, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, John. Always a pleasure.
And Ron, as always, thanks for hopping on. It's good to hear from you again.
Did Profe Cambio Reyes show up?
No, the profe that came on was Profe Juan Arango.
Profe Juan Arango. Okay, I just wanted to congratulate Profe Cambio Reyes for his team winning. Because Santos technically are Rayado. They also have Rayado.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
No. Joel, when Chepo was coaching Santos, he was Cambio Rayas Cuadrado because the Rayas did turn a little bit.
That's true.
They turned 90 degrees, so he was Cambio Rayas Cuadrado. But
briefly.
Yeah. The Chickies, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks. Good stuff.
Yeah, no, it was a great show, and we do appreciate you all for joining us here on the CantinaMX podcast. My name is John Jagu. We will talk to you guys again next week. Again, you can listen to this in our previous editions of the podcast from the Podcast Center at iTunes. And please follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. And you can certainly listen to this in our previous editions on YouTube as well. Thanks very much. We'll talk to you again next week.